We left off a pretty good spot last I checked. Oh. Let's see, are we live? Are we not live? All right, let's see. Let's see if we've been live. Oh, there's a new YouTube feature. Let's see. All right, so you guys missed a lot of that rant because the internet had not fully processed what I was doing, and that's okay. So I'm going to take it from the top. Hey, Tiger Blaster. So, yes, you guys know, I've got Genie on the way. So that makes it a little more difficult to time things up, right, with content. But we've got a less busy week this week. Last week, there was something planned every single night after work. There was no breaks to the extent that I actually forgot about one of the things. Whoops. Lots of planning, but my wife did say that she would want me to stream from the hospital when Jeannie's born. So if you guys want me to do that, then that's possible. That might happen. So welcome Lamar Arrington and Mr. Andrew as well. Excited. We left off with a perfect place to go on a long break, if I'm being let's be real here. Ending with a face-off is kind of exactly what you want for a cliffhanger. Don't mind me, I'm just eating my breakfast. Julian Burns and Tyler Hawk, along with Simon O'Ford, Brennan De La Cruz. Hey, Joseph, let me know if you're trying to hop on air today. If you got the time, I'll send you the link. Oh, that's little. Okay. Timeout. Not as she's in labor. The hope, because if she's in labor, I don't care what she says, I'm not streaming. If we're chilling in the hospital and the baby's born and she's over in her little baby bassinet, then she wants me to stream. But I don't think she wants me to stream if she's in labor. I hope that's not what she's asking me to do. Because, you know, she in her mind, we both agree that one of the best things that could ever happen is me somehow becoming big enough to just do YouTube so that I could be around our baby a bunch. And she gets as much time as possible with her parents. But we'll see. What up, Cameron Bailey and Kaiser Phoenix? Don't have me looking like a bad dad before my baby's even here, Thomas. Cut me some slack, man. All right. I know that apparently something funny happens this week, like funny, because I saw people crying about it. And it was so annoying that he said he might not pull up this week. If you want East to show up, you might have to bother him in the Discord server. But he said he doesn't want to have to filter himself to make sure we don't get taken off the air dealing with these people's stupidity. Get him, Tyler. Can't have me being accused of being a bad father during Black History Month. You're right. All right, let me get this pulled up. Oh, perfect. I'll send it to you once I'm done with reading the chapter. Let me get the chapter pulled up. It's right here. Hey, if I'm being told to stream while my wife is in labor, yeah, it's going to be a very short stream. All right, so this is what happened in the chapter. I'm gonna read it real quick, and then I gotta go, y'all. Bye. That's how it's gonna go down. Just know that. Maybe you'll get a follow-up stream later about the chapter. All right. Chapter 380, My Hero Academia by Kohei Horikoshi. Based on the page count on the Viz website, we're looking at least 15 pages. Chapter title, A Squoosh. Squoosh! All right, so we got Gentle. We'll open up with the focus on Gentle. Let's see. All right, so the UA center is finally like tearing, which makes sense. I mean, it's elastic, it's not, unbreakable. It's ain't no undead unluck here. I mean, I'm breaking the sky so that, or unchanging the sky so that she can't fall. All right, let's see. My elasticity quirk has stretched its last. Not to do with a lack of love, but rather my own limitations. And then we got LaBrava coming through. Hang in there, Gentle. Give me a minute and I can upload the new program to keep that schoolhouse up in the air. It was nearly too swift to glimpse, but I dare say that the boy I just saw, does his departure point to the faith he's placed in me here? No, I suppose not. He wouldn't be aware of my participation. No camera, no audience. My actions here today earned me neither cheers nor jeers. Only the joy of being alive and present within my heart. Okay, so I was just about to say that there is the business course here, and of course the next three panels are okay. Time out. I'm sorry, but if this is one of the jokes that had people mad, you suck. I'm sorry, dude, but you suck. Because the whole point of this scene is that Gentle is fully getting to live his dream right now. He's getting to be a hero. He's getting to be on camera. This ties in with what I've been saying about what the business course is going to be doing. This is creating a documentary. So all these moments, all these highs and lows, even the potential for narration, all feed back into that theory about how My Hero Academia is likely to wrap up with like a documentary screen or something like that. And it's going to be like Deku's A Look Back special. So we got the Gentle stuff here. Gentle never narrated, of course, but we have this here where, you know, and it also just plays into the easy, cameras. Gentle was a crime clip uploader, as he was called. And if you think about it, the way that text box form over people during My Hero all the time only really sells that mid-documentary vibe even more. Just saying. This is kind of peak fiction right here. But I'll also be honest and say that like my favorite season of American Horror Story was Roanoke, partially for the documentary within a documentary like type angle that it went for. So you don't have to take my full word for that. Do not risk your necks. Hurry yourselves inside. That one is a villain and supposedly in custody. And yet the one holding up this tomb right now is without a doubt that very man. Heed me, won't you? I'm doing my utmost, so please get inside. Shut up, let us film. Ah, such passion. We're also doing our utmost. When Japan was falling to pieces, the nation placed the entire burden on Endeavor. That day, we should have been documenting and curating the whole saga, and it should have secured the link between heroes and society, but we couldn't. Hey, yo. So now we film to reforge that link. This is how the business course does heroics. So what I like about this is that it also kind of, one of the things that I really like about this scene is that during the sports festival, when the business course was out and active, they didn't even get to participate or really be on the scene. There was no emphasis. They were just in the stands selling candy, confections, and whatnot. Also, I just thought about something, and I don't think you guys have ever pointed out that there's a stuffed Maki and Panda on my shelf. Anyway, there's something to be said about the fact that the business course was this thing that was hinted at as like valuable in its own right. And obviously, if UA is taking the time to build up this, like train agents from the time they're young to work with heroes, that should have gotten some kind of emphasis throughout the story, and them kind of taking this moment and seizing this opportunity and being compelled to move and risk their lives in order to get this story out to the world in the future is very much an actually like a heroic thing to do. Because if nothing else, even if all this UA data gets wiped, right? If this is uploaded into a cloud, if this is uploaded somewhere, even if they were to get like knocked out, done, destroyed right here, at least this fight and the data from the fight would still be here. And that would still, in a sense, pass that information on to the next generation, to whoever would potentially be going to combat against this Shigaraki in the future. So it's kind of one of those things that we know that narratively, of course, that we expect Deku to win and we expect the heroes to be able to finish off Deku, but the principle is still the same. They're doing something that helps ensure the future of society, even if they are not there. And yes, Tabufu, there are people who do this. Like you, every now and then you do have, we don't see as much of this anymore, but yeah, like a journalist going to like a hot area or a hot zone where there's combat regularly, even if there's not actively firefighting at that moment, and kind of explaining what's going on in the wars is a thing. It's a page right out of the real life textbook. So, or the textbook of real life, if you would prefer to be called that. Incredible to think I once sought to infiltrate this astounding educational institution. You kids are something special. My phone has a mind of its own. It's offering an opinion. No, wait, I can't control it. We've been hacked. Is it a villain? Since UA's electromagnetic barrier is on the fritz, I was able to hack my way into your devices. What are you doing, Iba? You have to save UA. Oh, that's that. Action items all taken care of. I'm already on the next task. The load lightens. Huzzah to you, La Brava. All right, and then we got twice, and which the thing about this that I find fascinating is that we don't know. It seems like, okay, I'm going to say this. It seems like all these twices have Twice's personality. So it doesn't seem like this is just, a bunch of Togas who happen to be transformed into Twice. This looks like she managed to recreate Twice. You guys already know that I kind of expect the Twice clone at some point to just end up escaping, and for that Twice clone to live beyond the end of the story, or at the very least, live beyond the end of the war. So every last hero's got to die. And then we see Aizawa. Oh, wait a second. See Monoma. Hold on. Kaminari. Okay, I had to get closer. All right, so President Mike and Aizawa end up knocked off of the UA, falling through the sky, while more Twice gangers are being made. We see, we get a clean shot of Aizawa's prosthetic. He still got that thing on him, trying to pull up with the shank. President Mike is losing his glasses, just falling. Kaminari is screaming no. Let's see. Hold up, let me get this formatted properly. But we see Kurogiri opens a portal underneath them. And then Kaminari and Mandalay. All right. Kaminari says he saved our teachers. Okay, so we're getting some of that Shirakumo versus Kurogiri here, possibly, which I think most of us agreed that was an inevitability of the discussion, with the fact that we introduced that. Wait, did I skip a page? Why did I skip a page? Hold on. Let's see, you kids are something special. Hold on. Now I got to go back. Cameras and audience. I thought I read that one. So now we film to reforge that link. The load lightens huzzah to you, La Brava. Twice saying every last hero's got to die. twice knocking Aizawa and President Mike off. Oh, what the hell? This is a page that just didn't load. For Midoriya, my original scheme. All right. Yeah, there was a page that just didn't load. Okay. I'm glad you guys said something. I'm glad you guys said something because that did not load the first time I was coming through here. That is nuts. Gunga, my original scheme. So let's see. No. All right. For Midoriya, my original scheme. And we see they've got the shot of Deku and Shigaraki on the ground, and they're actively recording. What I think is kind of crazy about this image is that Deku looks a little bit like Gran Torino here. And we've got like the rivets and all kinds of stuff like that. It actually looks like both of them are surrounded in Saiyan auras, or the energy auras from Dragon Ball Z. Let's see, Gunga, my original scheme was for him to become me in his entirety. Melding minds with Tomura to create a new entity altogether was never, in fact, plan A. Let's see. Too many, damn it, can't keep up. Yep, just struggling with the numbers. Granted, Tomura's impulse for destruction eclipsed all my hopes. But that is a minor detail now that this body's role is done. Injecting my quirk factor into Tomura will broaden my authority and put a lid on him. The Demon Lord's completion, such is my tale. All right. I could have sworn both of Hawks' swords were broken, but I'm just going to assume maybe I'm just wrong and he was only holding one sword for a while. You ain't reaching Shigaraki on my watch. Get it? That's how our tale goes. Our future's on the line for the kid's sake. Oh, okay. So he went to swing and dropped his sword. Let's see. For the kid's sake, none of it's for you to chew up and spit out. To go further beyond, towards a future so bright, the wind seems to blow my way. Let's see. All right. Oh, and then he's pulling out the broken one. Let's see. The wind towards the future so bright, the wind seems to blow my way. They can't help but smile. And it looks like he just blew a hole in Hawk. This is an interesting light of hope for Koshi, but I think there's got to be something extra here. Hawks, Tokoyami. Oh, and there it is. A beautiful Hawk's face. So I'm guessing this is what had people mad. The idea of hold up. Okay. The agony. I was too hasty. Oh, how I've yearned for you. Totes an illusion for reals. If I'd been a skosh later, you would have unalived the certified hottie I'm simping for. You very not very fetch of you, no cap. All right. We got to address something regarding Kami. There is no point in which she re-enters the story and it isn't insane. There's also no way to justify keeping all of the Shiketsu kids entirely out of the story. Is she riding? Hori, we need to have a talk. Fetch, cool, awesome, probably. No cap, a distinct lack of hat. Who knows, honestly. This makes you wonder if these are supposed to be to have a hard crush on someone. Unalived, killed, a skosh a little bit. I can't tell if these translations in the side panels are genuinely Caleb not knowing what some of these words mean. All right, so if they had Kami calling Hawks a twink in the damn scans, I see why people were a little thrown off, but that's Hori's notes that Caleb translated. Okay, so Hori doesn't know what no cap actually means. He just knows that you can throw it on the end of something. That makes it even funnier. Because I don't really expect Hori to know what no cap means, but he watches the Church of MHA and he's heard us say it before. So I mean, that's great. Yeah, no, Kami is an inherently funny character. So no battlefield was she gonna show up at, and it was gonna not be at least a little goofy. Let's see. And then we see that Meat Boy has a hold of Hawks. As the faction receiving refugees from UA, we were designated as a purely non-aggressive defense force. However, the refugees have yet to arrive. Since we were deduced the imminent danger and impending ruination, we took it upon ourselves to assemble Shiketsu High School's hero course and assist in battle. Listen up, pal. I'm the guy who decides which way the wind blows. So, most people have especially been waiting for Baldy to get back into this. Because we know that he's technically stronger than Shoto based off the early stuff. We saw him waste hundreds of folks back in the day during provisional license exam. We saw him do it. He embarrassed them, bodied them, bamboozled them. It was rough. Let me get these links out. We know that they weren't necessarily having an easy time of it. Let me see. And Joseph, I'm going to send you the link on Twitter. Sound good? But so I don't know. This all makes sense. Well, there's one or two options. Meatball Dude has his hero license, or all hero core students have just been granted the ability to take action. And even if not, Meatball Dude was not going to sit there and do nothing. Hawks is on Kaikaiku, so I wonder where he ran off to. Kami speaks like she was born in the 90s. Kami speaks like a character written in the 90s to keep up with modern slang. So Mr. Andrew coming through with the super chat saying, I feel bad for the villains. It feels like they're being outnumbered and bullied at this point. Even when they get more numbers, they lose it. RIP clones. Well, that's the other thing too, right? Is that the Twice clones, we have no idea how many battlefields they're at due to Kurogiri. We could cut away to over by the hospital and they could just be out here wasting people now. We have no idea what all those clones are getting into, what kinds of shenanigans they are indulging in. So it's hard for me to say that the heroes have too much of an advantage when there's too many battlefields where we just don't know what's going on. For example, what's happening at Sero's battlefield? What's happening at the battlefield with Makia? What's happening in the actual tunnels, right? Like, we know that the dissenters and All For One helpers are at these locations to disrupt and cause harm to, you know, the civilians. So what's happening at all those battlefields? And because Shiketsu moved, we now know that, like, unless Fuyumi's been secretly training with Frost, it's looking a little rough for them. Is Eri gonna get kidnapped? And that's the other thing too, is that AFO can just kind of blow up the battlefield repeatedly if he so chooses. It's rough to keep in mind that, like, right now, what they're trying to do is keep their own allies safe. But if All For One decides, at the end of the day, the only person at this battlefield that matters is me, how's it looking?
So we all agree this was the stupidest discourse ever, right?
Like, how do you expect it to turn out if that happens? I heavily disagree on that one. Do I think some LOV clones could make the battle spicier? Sure. Do I think that defeats the purpose of Sad Man's Parade? If they don't, no. Because from that perspective, that's like saying having an army is worthless unless all the army is the heaviest hitters. And that just kind of, oh, let me see. Hold on. Let's see if my maybe my headset's not working right now. Joseph, let me hear you talk.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, what were you saying, Joseph? Sorry.
Okay. So we all agree that this has been the stupidest discourse ever, right?
Yes.
It's like, this is probably the smallest panel in the entire chapter that got people the most heated for whatever reason.
I've accepted that I think the issue here is that there are moments in MHA that people truly, truly, like with all their heart, genuinely love, possibly more than they love in almost any other series. And I think that for a lot of the war arc, because I think we got like the fandom was always kind of like weirdly nitpicky or whiny, but the way we got as a fandom after the war arc, insane. Genuinely insane. And I kind of chalk it up to the fact that every single week, like during the war arc, I feel like there was something that happened in a chapter that had people just like, dude, this is nuts, this is crazy. And at most you were going like, oh, like if it wasn't that week, the next week something super big happened. Like you had Mina running through the fire, then you had Red Riot climbing up Makia, then you had like, it was like one thing after another. You had, you know, Dobby busted in the room and blowing away Hawks. Then you had like him actually saying Hawks' name. Then you had like, so just everything was boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, like the black speech bubble.
And then you had, we got to this point where every single chapter couldn't be that once like the war ended and it was time to like handle some other stuff and reset the story because we're starting a new act. So we had to go back to the basics. And when you get to that point, it's like, now people are like, man, I thought we were just gonna like, that's first off, that's an impossible clip to maintain. And it's just not possible. You can't do that for an entire story because there has to be some kind of buildup.
If the gag with Hawks and the gag with Tokoyami and Kami happened in One Piece, they would eat it up. If it happened in any other manga, they would eat that up. Also, hi.
Hey, Thomas.
Hello.
That's the thing is that maybe I have the right words blocked, but I didn't see anything about deaths. I saw people complaining about jokes.
I've seen people complain about how if Inasa is dealing with the Trice clones, then there's no hope for Uraraka. Because everyone's expecting her to have a massive quirk awakening here. Even though her whole character is built around Toga, not Twice.
First off, Quirk Awakening is fake news.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to your video about it.
But because it's not sustainable. Like you can't just have a bunch of revelations because all big revelations are predicated on having setup. Like the fight against All For One and Deku just fucking whooping that dude down is not as satisfying if we don't have the stuff that built up to it. What's more, him being so embarrassed after getting folded is not as good if we don't see that like there was a bit of struggle to utilize quirks properly. If we don't get that bit of training during that first stretch during the Deku Black arc, Quirk Awakening is fake news, I'm telling you.
Wait, Annika, I have a question for you. How do you feel about the business course? Their moment.
No, I love that shit, man. Because the point is kind of to highlight that, at least to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was actually having a conversation with my buddy about this at work. And My Hero does a pretty good job of critiquing faults within, or at least you can kind of see and understand there's critiques of multiple ideologies within My Hero Academia. If you apply, like, if you look at certain results as end games of those ideologies. So when you're like overly reliant on like this state and overly reliant on people like saving you, you end up not taking action a lot of the time when you could in your life or whatever. But in this case, I think that this kind of tackles something about like kind of the illusion of the self-made man, and how everybody, like, even if Deku becomes the world's greatest hero after this conflict, sure, some people will be like, well, he defeated Shigaraki, he's the greatest, period, done. There's a lot that went into this victory. Without Deku being there, you had the business course that's like informing you that this battle even took place. You have the stuff with Bakugo, the stuff with Sun Eater, Mirio being able to eventually like call out to and start to identify stuff within the schism of Shigaraki and All For One. You have like the damage that Najira tried to do, the sacrifice of Edge Shot, which, however you feel about that is how you feel about that. But all these different facets building up to not only winning this physical battle, but winning and just punching people isn't enough. I know that you like Black Clover, for example, Thomas, and I believe we've talked about before what my favorite moment of Black Clover was.
Was it Asa's speech to Mario Leona?
I believe so. I never remember who he was talking to anymore, but when he was basically like, look, I'm dumb, but I know how to beat ass. So I beat enough ass. Somebody smarter than me can help us create a system that's a lot more fair. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna keep beating ass and try to find good people to help me do that. I don't understand the politics, but I understand that if I do the right thing, I can hopefully make something good happen.
I want to say that was after the Elf arc. It just sounds like something that happened around that time.
Probably. I think it was a little before the fight with Zagreus, but I'm not 100% certain.
Because it was with the copy mage, and Asta punched him in the face when he was trying to explode. And he was discussing how we don't have to fight; we have a common enemy. And then Mario Leona was about to nuke him, and then Asta stepped in and was like, hey, we should listen to, hear him out, let him cook.
So yeah, it's kind of like that. So this is, nobody has directly said it. Like they've talked about saving to win and winning to save, but nobody's talked about just how complex all that saving is actually going to be, because saving people, and it kind of goes into what the Huck guy said, where he was like, anybody who needs saving is probably having the worst day of their life. And so you need to make sure you reassure them, because it's not just saving their bodies, but you got to save their hearts. And even if you think about it, the political party that Trumpet was running was the Hearts and Minds Party. It wasn't the Heart and Body Party. Like, it was the how you think and how you feel party. So going through and having to save and doing what it takes to facilitate people getting that knowledge, creating that feeling of safety through the dissemination of information is kind of important. And while you can easily go, oh, well, this whole thing was recorded at the end, especially with the level of like scrutiny that My Hero is under these days. I 100% believe that the best choice Horikoshi made here is including the business course students from the very early stages of the fight at this battlefield. We might not see everything with Dabi. We might not have footage of, what went on with these other battlefields, but we at least have footage of the big fight, and we have footage of, Gentle pulling up to save. We have footage of, which with Gentle is a person who was seen as a villain who, when you think about the crimes he committed, he basically went into 7-Eleven, and like when we're introduced to him, he's basically going to 7-Eleven and calling them out for selling potentially expired food. Does that really seem that villainous?
Man, when you want a Coke, you want a Coke. Like that, it's simple as that. It's not really that's at all. And also, funny that you mentioned like the business score students, because the first time we meet them in chapter 26, they're talking about Deku, about how his stocks are about to rise, and they don't know how hard it's going to be because he didn't show off his quirk. And it goes full circle to right now, where they're currently recording Deku, and that goes into La Brava helping out Hero Society with her hacking into the system and live streaming it everywhere, through Japan, through America, through Europe, everywhere.
Yeah, I saw it in the chat. I remember who said it, but like hopefully they'll cut back to Meryl in the United States and have her like report on this or something. Like I just said, I know Meryl's like a meteorologist, but like she is the US reporter that we've seen. So maybe they'll have her say something about it, like just to show how wide range this all goes.
Mm.
And while it is true that, okay, so I do want to address that. What you said is true. He did beat up heroes, but did he attack them? Did he like start the fight, or did he just go, yeah, you're not going to arrest me for pointing out this thing? And then he was basically like, to a certain degree, he pulled up, told them their stuff was thing, and then was like, yeah, I'm gonna need like $100 because I've bought some of these puddings and stuff like that. It's basically how that goes down. So it's kind of like being like, yeah, I've been buying food here. You guys have been selling expired stuff. I'm gonna need that money back. Which is even crazier because like I just thought about that now. Like he was like, this J store has been selling these. And it's like, well, we know that he wasn't out here doing a bunch of detective work. It's not like he just randomly chose targets. He tended to already have a reason to go there, which means he probably got food poisoning from the J store pudding at some point, went to double check it and was like, oh no, they've been selling expired shit. I'm putting them on blast. Like,
yeah, like his worst crime was probably unauthorized quirk use.
And like, yes, he beat up heroes in self-defense. And what's more, though, a cool detail about this is that it plays into what the hero course is doing here. When heroes pulled up to stop him, he never actually added him beating up the heroes to the clips. Like, think about that. He never humiliated the heroes. He would win his fight and then flip it so that you saw him getting it, somebody trying to attack him. And even then, I don't think he would always have the hero. I don't know if he did or didn't. Can't remember right now off the top of my head. Let the heroes be on when they incited the fight. But he like took a photo, like video of him. And I think it was usually his reaction to heroes arriving, having that clipped off and then escaping.
I have the page right in front of me. It's on chapter 170. He's in front of the cashier, and then all the heroes like pull up. They're saying, "Drop your weapon," and then they're just almost about to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to, jump him for what he's done. So it could come off like self-defense.
Yeah. Also, in case you guys don't know the Zangief quote in question for Terrence Bernard, it's just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are a bad guy.
Oh, Record Up. I was like, who's that group? And I remember.
I really like the way the anime handled it because it just like the heroes show up, it then just like cuts to him walking away and the whole building shaken from the elasticity, and it's like it not only built up mystery about what he can do, but it also he mentioned that he doesn't like violence and he doesn't want to show violence on his wholesome YouTube show.
Like even a lot of the tactics he took with Deku, like yes, was he willing to like ping Deku? Yes, because he didn't really have a choice. Deku, because if you think about it, Deku was like, I'm gonna fight you. And he was like, rebound away. And Deku was like, bring that ass here, boy. And he was like, oh, I guess I was just stuck fighting him. Like there's no, I gotta fight him.
That is in all seriousness. So in all seriousness, my favorite fight in My Hero. It's just like it is the highest stake, low stake battle you have ever seen.
Yeah, because the thing that gives it like stakes is
Is if the show gets the culture gets canceled, and like they're trying to do this for Eri to go back to not just saving the body but saving the person or saving the spirit. I forget how you worded it.
Yeah, which if you think about it,
save the mind and heart. They already saved the body, so you have to save the mind and heart.
If you think about it, Deku beating Gentle is the first fight where without question, like he wins and saves. And but what I mean by this, he does that for everyone involved. He wins so that Eri gets to continue her situation, gets to have the show, gets to find a reason to smile. He wins against Gentle, but he also like wins Gentle's spirit over.
He saves him.
So he saves both of them in the process. Whereas what we have now is him needing to win and save, but the only way anything other than like Shigaraki's death is the end goal that I can see it working is him splattering Shigaraki so hard that like little baby Tenko falls out of like a pile of flesh with no memories. That's the best.
That's a very disturbing like version of the opening.
Well, when not, and the thing is, I've said it before that opening existed. That like, so is Bones? Are you watching too? Because if you're watching too, we got to have a talk.
They're taking notes.
Pay this man.
Yeah, give him his royalties.
Please let me make enough money so that either myself or my wife can stay at home with our daughter. It's the dream.
How do you on page, I think it was like page 13, 15 with Hawks's body gang, blown apart. Is that the quirk the Nomu used on Mirko? Where it was like a kind of a reality bending where it crushed her arm and like twirled this.
I thought it was just the air cannon.
No,
I don't know. You can see the hand. You can see the hand.
No, Thomas is right because it's a spiral motion. So he's doing that, and you see they're actually like pulling it. Because I was wondering why I wasn't seeing like blood flying out for this. Besides, obviously it became the illusion, but
because I remember someone mentioned that on the timeline, and people were arguing against them, and I brought it up in the server too, and no one really confirmed this. So I'm glad that people are on the same mind track.
No, it's the same hand motion. It's the same effect because usually when you see this kind of, because it spirals.
Yeah.
So, and if you look, it even like pulls into a focal point. So, yeah, he tried to do what happened to Mirko's arm.
Which is kind of wild. Like, did All For One get that after the 5 versus All Might, or is the quirk like only effective against people who are physically not on All Might's level?
I think it's a case of All Might was too fast, but also All For One wanted to beat All Might in a very specific way.
Yeah,
like it kind of goes into that whole old gamer blah 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 mindset that he's always displayed. Because the second he blew away All Might's muscle form, he could have just blasted him again.
Yeah,
could have just blasted and blasted and blasted. But instead, he was like, "I've got the ultimate combination of quirks to punch the shit out of you, because you punched me bald, hairless, and deaf."
Now it's your turn.
Quite literally, him being like, "Nah, bro, you got to feel what I was feeling." So make sure you're drinking water and moisturizing. But yeah, definitely a case of All For One very likely did have this quirk back then. It's just that the win condition wasn't
Mhm.
rip All Might to pieces on national television. It was because he was also trying to demoralize them, right? Like, if he would have landed the black hole and just pulled All Might to pieces, it's like, oh my God, All Might's dead. But at the very least, it's All Might's dead. This guy's a real threat because he took All Might out of his prime, blah, blah, blah. Whereas in the version we get, it's this whole time it's been a lie. It's been an illusion. He hasn't actually been the strongest. He hasn't actually been able to keep us safe. There's a lot of situations where, and that in of itself is way more assuring than this one really powerful guy beat All Might. This is, oh, All Might was the top dog. He wasn't as powerful as we thought. A lot of these other heroes don't come close to All Might, so we're probably thinking they're stronger than they actually are. And if I already wasn't that impressed with Manual, now I'm really not that impressed with Manual, right? Like, if I'm sitting here and my quirk is Destructo Disc, but I'm like, these heroes, they got real training. And then I realized like the greatest hero was a fraud to a certain degree. Like, real feats, fraudulent stature. Like, he wasn't as powerful as I was led to believe. I'm going to sit here and be like, actually, maybe my Destructo Disc quirk can put that work in on a lot of these bozos. Maybe I'm underselling my value. So maybe I'm getting more practice in with them. And, in these streets, robbing people and chopping off hero limbs, not even a month later. Because why wouldn't I if I can get that bag this way? Yes, Tobufu, agree. Please do not forget to like the stream. Yep. Yeah, 3 out of 6 in health. All For One, hell, arguably you could give All For One a 2 out of 6 in health. But I mean, he chose to give him that 3. But and yeah, he wanted the run back. He wanted to, and that's why I think it's so hilarious that, like I've said before, All For One fought Deku under the same circumstances that All Might fought him and lost. So there's no reason for him to have the ego that he does, and yet it's there. Man has convinced himself he's that guy. All right, I'm going to ask you guys, do you feel like Gentle and Labrava are going back to jail after this arc?
Oh, I saw that message. I was trying to find it as well. I don't think they're going to jail. I think after like Gentle was proving, especially at the beginning of the chapter, I believe someone mentioned it. It's like Gentle didn't care that he wasn't being recorded. His thrill for the battle and him helping out Deku is what's driving him to help and to be a hero. And I feel like the cops know that. They're not going to put him into jail after this and go, okay, you helped out, go back to doing time.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous.
This is time served. All right. This is time served.
I'm just going to straight up reread this chapter over again because I just found another page that didn't load properly.
Yeah, was it the Labrava page?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we were referring to.
Oh, the one
there was like 3 or 4 pages that didn't load while I was reading this, right? That's crazy. But you guys keep going. I'm just getting my reread.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm going through the chapter real quick too. See if there's anyone I want to point out. What do you think? Kurakumo took Aizawa and Mike.
It is interesting how Hori mentioned or it could all be the same, where Kaminari is like, oh, he saved our teachers. What a good person for doing that. But Mandalay mentions, but it could be, the removal of erasure.
Like erasure. I mean, Monoma technically still has it for at least a couple minutes, but I don't think we saw Monoma in this chapter, so we don't know if he's under a pile of twices right now.
We did actually, when Kaminari was screaming out, no, you could see Monoma in like the backdrop, but he was like something hit his head, and I think that's Manga right next to him too. So Manga is taking over as well.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Manga is holding Monoma, maybe trying to get him back up. But here's my
Okay.
question. It's like, because Coyote mentioned this earlier, if Monoma has erasure and he looks at a twice clone, does that affect them all or does it affect only one? Because if Stain like paralyzed one twice clone, would it paralyze them all?
Well, we know from the first war that erasure doesn't destroy a clone. It just prevents them from using that quirk.
Yeah,
We learned that with the Garaki quirk, Garaki clone. So like if they find like if he erases the one that is actually Toga,
Mhm.
and then that should revert her back because I'm pretty sure that's what happened when she turned into a Rocklock
Yes.
during the overhaul. So yeah, I mean, of course, it'll be it's looking not a needle, not looking for a needle in a haystack. It's looking for a needle in Kansas with how many there are.
Yeah, that's true. It is interesting.
All right.
Now you caught up?
Now I've reread the chapter with it fully loading properly.
That's
So what
good
I tried to do this time is that normally when I read it, I have the double page format.
Yeah.
And this time I was like, I'm going to read the single page just to make sure I don't accidentally spoil myself on any
Yeah.
page flips that didn't work, led to the pages not loading properly.
And you still got hit with it.
So definitely just gonna stick with the double page anytime I do reactions, unless I'm specifically reading from my phone, it looks like.
Yeah, I actually had during the Ochako's speech chapter, like I was reading it at work on my break, and it actually didn't load a page. Like it said, this page cannot be loaded. When she was yelling that this, like it goes, this place is his. Then I turned the page cannot load. So I took screenshots of those. I put in Discord. Shockingly effective cliffhanger.
Also, okay, so I do want to point out Monoma has made contact with twice.
Yes.
So,
but my question is, does it like go right through the clothes? Because is it kind of like is the class of like the full body suit like preventing him from effectively copying the quirk, or could he still copy it?
So personally, I'm of the camp that he does need to make physical contact with you, but I still wanted to float the idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because anytime we've seen him copy somebody's quirk, he's like actually been able to touch them. That's why the weirdo question that I have, and this is the weird, like I've said it before, but this is a weirdo question, and I admit it. Could he take like pieces of people's hair and just like keep them in his suit and just kind of or could he just wear a suit woven from fibers of various other heroes' hair?
I think he can.
Because if he did that, I mean, he's still technically wearing something with their DNA or whatever. But more importantly, then as long as he's wearing that suit, he's got full access to their powers, right? Like, because we know Mirio's got a suit made out of his hair, which the hardest part to believe about Mirio's suit is that it's hard for me to believe personally that he grew enough hair to make the suit.
Maybe someone copied the hair and just like copy paste.
Like that's the hardest thing to believe about that. Like he actually had enough hair to make a suit out of.
Well, I mean, it could be possible.
And we get no flashbacks with him having haircuts.
I mean, everyone grew their hair long during COVID. Maybe a pandemic hit. No, my hero verse that he had very long hair that he made into his costume.
Hey, COVID's canon the JoJo, so
true.
Let's see.
I don't know, maybe. Because like Tyler said, like he touched Bakugo's hair the same way Kirishima, right? And he was able to copy the quirk. Like hair has DNA in it. So is it like a question of would the DNA, because I assume the DNA, even if you like take someone's hair, the DNA doesn't wear off.
No,
doesn't
it doesn't.
die. So yeah, he could. I don't think it's a weird question at all.
All I know is I really want to see Smugman's Parade.
Smug Man's Parade, Sad Woman's Parade, and Sad Man's Parade. The perfect trio.
Sorry, I was stunned because I just saw the Mia Roboco Volume 12 cover.
Oh my god. Is there a new one?
Yes.
Volume.
What's it parodying? All I know about me and Roboco is a gag manga, and the volume covers parody.
Is it
other manga.
Naruto?
Yes.
Oh, I found it. This is great.
Here, I'll post it in the chat. Or
I
link
love
to it in the
this.
chat.
Because I found it on
Here we go.
Reddit. Let me see the comments. Someone said another list parody cover, Big W. We are fighting dreamers. Oh, this is great.
So look, I tried to read Roboco. I think it's one of those things that maybe I'll be able to appreciate in like 15 years.
Maybe 20 at most.
Right now, it just feels like a time capsule manga that only exists because it's propping up like other series. Like it's so so I'm like, and it doesn't like have enough of a story on its own for me that like I'm like, I can't do this. Like too many pages are dedicated to referencing other people, but who knows, maybe it'll be fun down the road to read that and be
I think it's hard
yeah.
to reference on a manga in a very comedic way without coming across like Gintama. Like Gintama, I feel like is the only one who pulled that off well, and now every other manga is doing the same thing. Like for example, like JJK reference on a manga with Yuji complaining about curse energy.
There was that samurai guy that I don't know. I mean, it hasn't been adapted yet, so maybe we shouldn't go into detail. Well, I mean, okay, they referenced Demon Slayer. We're in a series that takes place before Demon Slayer got big because of the anime. So that guy was a real one.
I can't wait for the Undead Unlock reference in me and Robocop.
Let's see. Wait, the Mia Roboco anime's been running, or
it's been running.
Wow,
it has. Oh
yeah, it came out in December.
Wow. Okay.
No way, you're joking, right?
I'm not joking. It's out. It's like 5-minute episodes. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it says 2022.
Yep.
Wow,
that's crazy.
But at least they were smart enough to make them, shorts and not like try to make them like 30-minute episodes.
Just expand the world of me, Robocop.
Man. Oh,
here.
Yeah, I mean, like JJK is kind of interesting because like other series are canon to it, like as manga series and anime series. Like I think one of the light novels mentioned that like he cried watching the Midoriya and Shoto at the sports festival.
Yeah.
Oh man,
which is a really cute reference.
So I want to vent about, as a person who does content that can be stuck in the labeled under the AniTube sphere. Fuck Seth the programmer, dude.
Oh no.
Like, man,
did something just hit you about Seth, or did someone mention it in the chat?
I just saw a thing that said it was like a thumbnail for a video he put out that was like, can he beat the allegations? And I'm like, bro.
I saw that, and it's a 56-minute video. Like, I don't know this person. I don't really know what he has done or what he's been accused of doing, but I'm not watching nearly an hour. I am not watching nearly an hour of him trying to defend himself.
It's such a disappointment because Seth has always been a huge face in like the power scaling community. Like he is like I would say he's like the leader of it at most with his like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach content alongside Clyde and all that. It's just disappointing to see him go down that route.
Which, don't get me wrong, I actually hate the kind of power scaling that like Seth and them do.
I do too.
Because like we've said, you can get Deku to 24 times the speed of light if you want to power scale the way these people power scale.
Yeah, like Ayama's laser beam with Mina, like
it's like
Deku flicking his fingers with Delaware Smash, like
it's just so, and I'm just kind of tired of anime YouTubers popping up and being maps.
Yeah,
I'm saying maps instead of the whole word because I don't feel like the stream getting flagged for using the word that it is.
The term.
But I'm so tired of maps popping up over here, and Seth and them are the kind of people who are like, well, because this character dodged a laser and the laser was 15 meters away, that means that they can move at the speed of, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, bro, this mangaka was not factoring in how fast the speed of light truly is when they made this scene.
I mean, when you look at One Piece, like Kizaru, like
he
moves at the speed of light because his I say quirk, his fruit is the light fruit, but at the same time, he's just having fun with this. It's not meant to be seriously speed of light because that would make Luffy and all these characters, especially like Chopper, like that level. They're not.
Like you can't use real physics and then ignore the fact that like if he was truly moving that fast, the air around him would be exploding all the time and all kind of stuff. So it's like,
I think people tend to forget about the rule of cool. Like sometimes it just looks cool, and that's all it needs.
Absolutely.
Oh, yep. There we go. So what that one guy said right there, just scroll up.
Yeah.
If you see the phrase Seth paraphrase, that is like you can just take that and then just extrapolate upon how many other ways that can go.
Yeah, that does not sound good.
So yeah, see, I'm just tired of that kind of stuff happening in the anime YouTube community, and I partially blame people who want to normalize, and this will sound harsh, lollies and stuff like that, because people sit there and be like, we're not creepy, but it's like, then how come a lot of the folks that like try to defend that shit end up being creepy all the time?
You can have a lot of conversations about that, especially with the the morality of viewing content that specifically like revolves around childlike characters. And it's very sus. The people who defend this are also sus and should not be taken seriously and should be blocked and reported, and you go about your day. But I assume like the more we talk about this, the more possible we'll get flags. So if I could bring up what Tyler said about, like, he says, so if this is the end of the Twice clones like Gunga, what danger will present itself to heroes here? Toga and Dabi still need our moments.
So, and that's kind of, okay, so in that vein, Dabi, he still can cook. At least for a while,
Literally.
And we know that a lot of the heroes are having an evac anyway. Oh, and I will get to the anime because I like this week's episode.
Yeah, I would love to discuss that too.
But one, I don't think Twice's clones are the be all end all. Twice's clones are a way to like neutralize the situation so that we can actually focus on the characters who are supposed to be fighting, and there's still something for other people to do. Your comment will be fine. We can't say stuff. You guys can fill in the blanks for people who are watching, viewing, listening, and that way people who don't know what's going on can like read it see what we're saying, and then like you filling in the context is great. So
Absolutely.
don't worry about that. I'm actually glad you clarified what it was, because I wasn't trying to say all that, but you putting it in the comments is different. That's one of the weird rules about like a lot of these platforms. The creators aren't supposed to say the things directly. Like that's how Unalive became a thing, is that people didn't want their videos taken down from, I believe, TikTok specifically. They couldn't, so they would say Unalive because it's not a real word. Well, at this point, it might as well be, but it's not a real word. So it would bypass using the, as they say, the K word. Because like, that's also why you notice that some people tweet and they'll say like D*E. Like all of that stems from people having to get around censors on specific websites. So yeah, Toga is going to have to eventually get her battle with Ochako. That's inevitable. Whether it's going to be a case of, and honestly, this is probably unpopular opinion. I don't want Ochako and Toga's final conflict to come down to an actual fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't need all my shonen fights to be like fist to fist, like, you know, headbutts and all that. I want an actual conversation between, like, of course you can throw in them fighting, but don't have it primarily be that. And sure, people may say, oh, that's kind of lame, and Uraraka isn't showing off what she can do, but that's not really been Uraraka's character.
I'm also going to say that like Uraraka has been a character who's been focused on the heart and happiness of people the entire series, stopping people from falling. She's introduced stopping Deku from falling. The
first act of heroism on that like site that we've ever seen in My Hero is Uraraka helping Deku from falling, and later on in the Deku Black arc, helping Deku be accepted.
Yeah. So if she's capable of, even if they have like a brief fight, like what I would love is for specifically, we've seen that them both get into like pin matches before, but if she can have like a pin match and Ochako wanting to actually help her, like, and I already know people will be like, oh, this is so corny. No, I want Ochako to win the pin match and cry in Toga's face. That's the path that I want that conflict to take, because I want Toga to at least have a chance to be saved. And I want her to, because like, she doesn't realize that hurting people is bad physically, right? Like she doesn't fully grasp being able to, like, that hurting people physically is bad. But she does understand emotional pain pretty decently and what it's like to have her feelings hurt. And so in turn, if she can help be guided to understand that the physical pain does cause hurt emotions, that can help her try to find a more sustainable or less violent or painful way to have that happiness and still get to exist like in a medium. And like you said, that means Ochako would have to admit that she loves Deku, which that needs to happen. But I don't want the first time Ochako completely confronts those feelings, which, here's the thing, Sue directly stated, I didn't want my friend's feelings revealed that way, which does technically suggest that there is room for a flashback where we get confirmation that Ochako and Sue actually discussed her feelings for Deku. It doesn't hard confirm that, but we get that possibility. So we can have a flashback kind of showing Sue's and Ochako's friendship a bit more. We can get a conversation between the two, discussing how she feels, why she feels that way about Deku, etc. And for them to finally connect, like that chat about romance, even if it was like just a desperate cry, can actually change so much. And the humanization of the villains has been one of the points of the series. What a lot of people need to understand that I'm not going to say if you are heavily opposed to these dialogues, it's because you're the kind of person who plays into what the problems in hero society are but you definitely lean in that direction if you, and I get it, because like part of it is just like I want the rawness and swag of the story, but are we after a cohesively thematic written story, or are we just after an action piece? Because if you're just after an action piece, that's not what My Hero is written to be. It is written to have action and be an action-based story, yes, but it is not meant to just be a hype fighting piece. The villains wouldn't have half the backstory they do if it was just that. Like, think about this. We wouldn't have Dabi's straight up agenda from jump be destabilizing hero society. Like, that's what he tells Eraser. We are tackling the two pillars of hero society, All Might and Yue, to crumble society's trust in you guys. From the Forest training arc on, that is stated to be Dabi's goal. We don't get that if the story is just going to be about who can beat the fuck out of each other more.
Now, I'm not really familiar with Naruto, but didn't it end in a similar way as well, where instead of Madara being the big villain, there was like someone else was introduced, and like she was like a representative of the issue of like the systemic issues in that society. Am I understanding that correctly?
So Kaguya was like the first, and if I'm being honest, the way she was handled, she's more reflective of like Japanese mythology being incorporated into the story of Naruto. I didn't feel like she did as good of a job as Madara did, reflecting the cycle of the Shinobi War and all that other stuff. But she was ultimately the source of the conflicts through the generations. So while she wasn't as interesting of a character to dissect for those purposes and the cycle of violence, being the perpetuator of the cycle of violence, the source of chakra, the reason why things were going the way they were going, it kind of works. It just,
it wasn't well fleshed out.
To bring up another comparison, is it sort of like Necron being the final boss of Final Fantasy IX, where you're fighting the theme instead of the villain, because you beat Kuja before. Like, Kuja's not the final boss. You got this representation of death, which is what the story sort of revolves around, and that's the final boss. So you're battling the theme of the story in a physical body.
I think that might. Did you play Kingdom Hearts?
Yes.
Did you play Kingdom Hearts 3?
Yes.
Xehanort is probably the best example of that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because Xehanort represents the splintering of hearts, the way we detach ourselves from people, the fact that we don't like how power corrupts, how isolation is damaging, and it tears you apart from the inside to the extent that like it breaks your ability to trust in others. You end up focusing solely on yourself to the extent that, he splinters his heart and puts it into, 13 different bodies just so he can create the ultimate weapon and only have to rely on himself ultimately.
Right. Okay.
So
we mentioned Naruto and how there could be like connections, to My Hero and narrative wise, and the way I always viewed Uraraka and Toga's like conclusion, like them talking it out. Someone mentioned something similar, and it made me think about it. It's Naruto and Sasuke's final fight, where after they're injured and they're lying down, they have that talk. They break through their shells and actually end that cycle of hatred towards each other, which would be cool. Like, just to see them, like Uraraka and Toga end their story, their arcs off with Jim just talking. Like, and we know that's possible because that's Hori's style. He isn't I'm doing this for the raw swag. He fights. He wants to tell a compelling story between these characters, these parallels.
And you know what I just realized? Like, if we wanted to get a good middle ground, you could have Toga basically like win the fight.
Mhm.
With Ochako's blood leaking out. And then they're having a conversation, and as Ochako's passing out, Toga turns into her and gives her a blood transfusion of her blood, stopping her from surviving the injuries. So Toga ends up dying, but she dies to make sure that Ochako lives. So then you
That'd be
get your
really
body
interesting.
that you want, but you also get a thematic point of her recognizing that she spent all this time hurting people that she's claimed to love. So this time, if she has to risk dying, and if you remember what she said during Game when she was on the throes of death, she was like, "This makes me feel closer to the people I love."
Mhm.
So if you put her in that position, a lot better. But just her straight up fighting, like just straight up fighting, and that being like, "Yeah, I kicked your ass and you're arrested." Lang.
They have this whole out like Naruto, like Kakashi versus Obito type like brawl, and it just ends without like a satisfying like talk. That would be such a not a cop out, but it would be, like you said, lame. Which is why I don't want MHA to like have their fights like dumbed down to Ross by Kino over time.
Yeah, because like we got, because even though Ross Swag Kino versus All For One was like, Deku was like, "Well, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you till Shigaraki shows up then." Now what? And you had the other users force Ghost in like, "Hey, how's it going? You're probably wondering how you got here." And All For One's like, "This isn't even fair. What the?" And it's like, "Nah, bro.
I can't show off being cool. Not fair.
At Gunga, you have to imagine that All For One's gonna get pretty close to losing his patience with all the people getting in his way.
I mean, what's funny is that now he doesn't actually like have access to the air cannon quirk. Because if he tries to launch an air cannon, depending on how fast Inasa is with it, he can just be like, "What if? No." Like, so
I still can't believe Kami flew in on a giant finger between her legs. It's like
That I know that Hori, we need to talk about that because Hori, you are down bad, down atrocious, my ad.
So what's crazy about that scene though is that the part of that image that he went the hardest with was still her left hand. Like, look at the detail.
Yeah.
Like the way he like, bro,
like
what?
the shading on the nails.
I know.
It's almost like he was like, "Look, I needed to give her a viable mode of transport, so I gave her this finger. But like, look at her fingers instead." Like,
Listen. Just don't look too carefully. Look at the dialogue. Chill. That's why he gave her such like an convoluted like speech about how he like, if I was a skosh later, you'd be unalive by that certified hottie I'm sipping for.
mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, it confirms that no cap is a saying that didn't die off in the My Hero world.
As it shouldn't.
As it should. You're right.
I do appreciate I got to drop a Mean Girls gif in the Discord.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
Yeah.
perfect. That was legit. Like, KB is a mean girl.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not gonna happen.
So one of the things that I'm kind of curious about is, do you guys think Meat Boy is the key to stopping AFO here?
You mean putting him into like what he did to Bakugo and
Yeah.
Kirishima? I
about
feel I can see that happening.
If he gets that one touch, this isn't like, he's not going to be able to hockey out like it's One Piece. And that isn't a criticism of hockey being able to do that in One Piece. That's
No,
just
absolutely.
like,
Well, wouldn't I mean All For One's being rewound, so wouldn't that just reverse it?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, actually.
No, JJ just had me dying. I just saw a post that said YouTube is going to demonetize the fuck out of this stream in regards to the LeBron one. Sheesh. Hey, look. So the other thing about I'm not nearly as bloodthirsty as a lot of folks. This is partially because I genuinely expect All Might to die. And I'm not a believer in shock factor deaths. I'm not a big fan of them.
Mhm.
Like I said, that I was like the day the Bakugo death chapter came out. I'm sure you guys remember me being like,
Yeah, that's in it.
So I'm not big on people's lives getting cut short just for the sake of like, oh, they died young. That's so deep. It's like, it's not really deep. It's kind of like the easiest route you can take when there's young people involved in battle. And people are like, well, you know, it's a satisfactory arc. No, it isn't. That's the point. Yeah, that's a shitty point.
I
I
will
mean,
say
it can be the
opinion
point, but not be good.
I will say my opinion has changed on it. Like at first I was for it because if he does this to by far the most popular character, what else is going to happen? But as the more it's moved on, the more I'm a bigger fan of Ed Shot going in to try to resuscitate him. It got Shigaraki so pissed off that it put him back in control.
No, I
Like,
agree.
But so when I look at people who I'm like, yeah, them dying is really going to add to the story. What does it add of actual value to the narrative? Like, because let's look at what Bakugo's death actually contributes narrative-wise. Deku gets to be upset, and then what?
It always
Baku-
comes down to Deku having like, because they want him to have that Gon moment or that Yuji moment with Junpei where he gets pissed and like he gets dark and he goes off and he has that rage moment. And
They had
although
a
that
whole
would be
arc of
cool,
that.
yeah, like Deku's mental health was focused on, and it was a huge point of his character throughout the entire series. And you dumbing down Deku's character to you wanting him to get pissed off and to go all Gon versus Pito, that's lame.
So CG, which I'm going to pretend that's a reference to Childish Gambino. The hero dying just because the villain is strong, it can happen. It's just really, really boring. Like really boring for me. And one of the things that I think is funny is that, as many people know, I like the way Attack on Titan goes. Eren Yeager is a properly written tragic character.
I agree.
But people didn't realize he was supposed to be a tragic character until way too late in the game.
Yeah, when we see like the time skip with Marley, and they were
They-
like, "Oh, we
no,
have a
no.
raw Aaron right now."
Yeah,
And
they
then
were like, "This is Chad Aaron." I'm like, "This shit is sad."
no,
Like,
this is depressing. Like, especially that flashback. Obviously, I can say it because it's been animated. But when he's in like the trench and he's cutting off his leg, like that's not meant to be. I mean, it is kind of raw to see a character go through like have that much drive to chop it off, but it's depressing. It's not meant to be him being a Chad, a badass. No, Aaron is tragic.
Doesn't he commit genocide?
You'll see soon.
I'm a good.
Look, all I'm gonna say is that
I don't. Yeah, I don't watch it.
have
I haven't read it, and I just like I just cultural osmosis. That's where I am.
All I'm gonna
with
say
Attack on
is,
Titan.
if a character or a person lives under threat of genocide and they decide they want to do it first in a story, that's not that's not really a hot take. Like, your options are kill or be killed.
Yep.
Like, if somebody holds a gun to your face and you've got a gun pointed at their face, you're not a worse person if you pull the trigger first. Like, you both have an option to die or live. One of you is gonna take it.
Eren Yeager is such a topic of discussion, especially the ending, which I won't get into because obviously spoilers.
Yeah.
You'll get that later on this year in the second part of this last part.
And so Tobofu, right, like the desperation comes in with their plans are getting disrupted. And what it comes down to for a lot of this is which parts of the story you choose to attach to or mentally and emotionally invest in. If you are invested in the strategies that the heroes employing, what they're trying to do, what their goal like is in this war and how they want to execute on it, then stuff went left for you the second Deku got pulled away. Instantly, the story had stakes, as you knew that if the initial fight was for Deku and Bakugo and the Sun Eater and Ejire and Genius and Edshot and Mirko to all jump Melvin. The second it became, we got to fight until Deku gets here, meaning Deku's probably going to end up having a 1v1 Shiggy because the rest of us are going to get our asses beat. You're like, well, shit, I mean, it's the final mission of Halo Reach. And if you haven't played Halo Reach, when you beat that game, there's like, I can't remember if you actually get to see the credits or not. I think you see the credits first. You land on this planet, and then it's like final mission, survive. And all that happens is that you get stuck fighting hordes upon hordes upon hordes of aliens until you die. Like, there's no real option for you to live. You are eventually going to die, is the entire premise of that. Like, you're fighting.
Like, you
like
can
Crisis
fight and
Core.
fight, but your fingers will get arthritis.
Like, it's inevitable. You're going to die.
Like Crisis Core with Zach Fair.
Yeah. So there's a certain level of everybody, but like if the only way you accept like stakes, or which you have to understand that if you only interpret stakes or consequences as people fighting and dying objectively, and I don't mean this with disrespect, so don't take it that way. You are not actually investing in what the narrative is trying to tell you. You are basically just focused on the rule of cool and what is the most entertaining, like page by page experience. Not what is narratively satisfying, not what's thematically satisfying, not what is cohesive with what the story is trying to tell or write or what the art is trying to be. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't even necessarily make you dumb, because being dumb would require you to be incapable of grasping thematics, not just being uninvested in them.
Oh, that's really interesting. Did you see what Kaiser said in the chat?
Let me see.
His canon.
My
That
headcanon is
All
that
For One's
AFO is going to
gonna
pull up to UA and Bakugo is going to try and prevent him from reaching Shigaraki or Deku, not in a proper all fight you, but being an annoying fly sort of way that riled up Vestige for one. I mean, it's possible. My thing is that I don't have an issue with Bakugo fighting after this, because at the end of the day, like, All Might broke his spine and he was still fighting. So we already know, like, Bakugo will fight with injuries. What's more, if you get some heart repair work, we got Common Area right there to kind of give him a jump start. We got a lot of stuff in place to kind of help him get his stuff back together. I
would love a Bakugo and Kaminari team up, just fight, especially because it's raining down lightning right now. It'd be kind of cool just to see that.
Yeah, the way Horikoshi handles injuries and like tends to take them seriously, I don't know if I could buy Bakugo fighting after this. Like,
here's why I gotta say that
it'll be a hard sell, but if anyone could
we let Endeavor
convince
fight.
me. Yeah, I mean, like, if anyone convinced me, it's him, but like, it'll just be a hard sell.
I mean, after
Because-
seeing Bakugo in the last war, like just shoot around and shooting off explosions, it is possible to see him get back up and fighting as long as he can still move, especially because he has like, full cowling for like that version of it for his own quirk. He doesn't have to, shoot stuff out from his hand. He can do it from any part of his body.
He also has the ability to cauterize his own wounds now.
Yeah.
By just letting explosions fly over it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing. All Might gets to fight with spilled guts. Endeavor got a chunk of his side bitten out. The heroes have been fighting with some pretty bad injuries. As Kaiser just pointed out, Nagant fired 2 bullets and her entire body started leaking. Technically, she fired 1 bullet and her body was leaking.
Yeah, and then she fired the other one when she was like, I gotta push right through, and then she was out for the count, essentially. But like what Tyler said about with the guns and Bakugo, like we don't have to see Bakugo just shooting everywhere like he did back in Joint Training or versus 9 or versus like Shigaraki in the war and in this war. He can just shoot from afar. It's possible he could do it. You saw what he did against Shigaraki for one with that massive explosion that rocked the entire battlefield.
So there comes a point where you have to accept the fact that people do way too much. Because like, does Hori take injuries seriously? Yes, but he takes them seriously post-battle. The shit people do mid-combat should not be happening. It's one of those things that I feel like people haven't noticed, I guess. But Endeavor is him, but the whole thing motivating him is how he's mediocre. Come on now.
Are you saying that Hori gives the consequences? He focuses on the injuries after with consequences?
Yes.
Okay,
but he still lets you fight when a human shouldn't, because that's what it means to go beyond your limits. Same thing applies to when Shigaraki got ragdolled by Redestro after having part of his hand blown off. Like, there's too many. All Might even being able to fight AFO after he got blasted multiple times with the air cannon. Almost every character who is a major character, the only characters who haven't gotten to go like truly plus ultra yet, Bakugo and Shoto. Like if you look at like the top heavy hitters, we got Hawks going all out, missing most of his wings. One of his swords is broken. Just realistically, good grounds for him to have been injured. He got stabbed multiple times by the rivet stab. He should be leaking right now. Hell, we saw All For One turning into dust and still having enough time to hit the rewind switch.
Actually, you're right. We have never seen Shoto go beyond. Like I would even count his fight with Dabi when he was using Pale Flame blades or whatever you pronounce it. He's never got it.
So we've never gotten an all-out Bakugo or an all-out Shoto. And that's also one of the biggest critiques against the series that people have. Bakugo never gets to go all out. He never has like an all-out fight. Shoto never gets to go all out.
Well, to be fair, that like it led into like their character arcs where, like for Shoto, like up until the Dabi, that fight was cemented during the last war. Shoto's battle was within himself. That was his enemy. The same with Bakugo. Bakugo didn't have a main villain because his whole arc was him with himself and with Deku.
Also, I will say that Tunisia is right. Aside from World Heroes Mission.
Oh, absolutely. Aside from World Heroes Mission. Because that fight was great. but it's not in the manga. So going off the
Bakugo's fight
manga
was the
fights.
best one, but
Yeah.
look, do I like Shoto's fight? Yes, but Shoto's fight, I feel like Shoto's limit push was a little different than how it probably should have been. Because he kind of just ended up fighting a giant meat wall, right?
You
So
mean
I
in World Heroes? Or
yeah,
oh,
World
absolutely.
Heroes.
It was him fighting, but Leviathan was getting the upper hand every time. Like he was just a wall that he couldn't jump over.
Yeah.
Until the end, where he took advantage of the waterfall that they went right through, and he used the flash fire fist jet killing.
Right. Whereas, which I had to rewatch rewatch World Heroes missions, and I did see that they like arrested the guys that the three of them beat.
Yes.
But like, can we all be serious for a second here? They only put that scene in there. It's the same as what happened in like at the end of Heroes Rising with like Chimera.
Yeah.
That scene exists solely so that they don't catch bodies.
Honestly, like you see Chimera and Mummy, especially everyone say, "Oh, Bakugo killed Mummy." No, he didn't. We saw Mummy.
Like realistically, he would have killed him, but you know, whatever.
It should have, but hey, it didn't.
Because like that was the first time where I was like, no, Bakugo was actually killed. He killed those guys. Like I was like, no, they're dead. Like they are dead.
Hell, Deku and Bakugo 100% to 9. Like Deku slamming him in the face with the kick and Bakugo shooting him with explosions that carved through a mountain. Like he should have died. But hey, it was Shigaraki's.
Okay, like 9 took 200% punch to the face.
Like he got kicked, and then Bakugo was like, "Before you go,
Here."
like, and then the story was like, he's alive.
Oh, he good. He good. Don't worry.
See, he's arrested. He's alive. They did not kill anyone. They're good boys and girls.
We talked about the fights in the movies, but the anime, how do you feel about it? The new episode? Because I loved it.
So I guess some people haven't liked the fact that Smokescreen is purple. I saw somebody mention that in the chat. I don't
color
have a
would it have
problem. Yeah, I've seen purple smoke screens and stuff before.
We've seen it with mustard.
So,
well, that was poison gas, so not really the same.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like clouds of like gases, smoke is kind of consistent with being purple in the show.
Yeah.
Like if it was green, it would be kind of a scary thing of Deku. Like I don't want to go into that smoke. Like Deku's carrying around poison.
But then also, I like that we kind of got the start. I'm wondering if they're going to add anything to the All Might getting jump scene, because we got the grenade and him like, peeling out. But all that aside, I like the way that it looks like we're handling, and we closed off with the airwalk scene of her, hopping away,
which I liked.
Yeah.
He did like little bounces, which was cute. Also, it was confirmed in the preview that Fajin is red, which is pretty good. It just shows that not all of Deku's quirks are going to be green,
Also, what I'm curious about is so there's always little stuff that people are like, oh, I hope they don't mess this up or hope they don't mess that up. One thing I didn't like, so this is the only critique I can really level here right now, is that when he ran into Ippon Jose, instead of saying she shouldn't have been out here looking like that, they said dressed like that. And I was like, no, that's not what they said.
Yeah, no,
I didn't like that either.
That's a translation error.
I was like, they were specifically taking shots at the fact that she's a heteromorph.
It kind of diminishes what happens later, which, like, I know MHA has been getting that a lot, where it's like, oh, you're diminishing Smir's character that we see later, and then they add that in. It's like if you're giving the public the impression that the only reason she got picked on was her clothes. It kind of takes away from the mutants discrimination, which I completely get. Like the first thing that popped into my head when I watched the scene was, oh, Deku didn't do like he shot by and he spat on the what you call it, like the street lamp. Instead, it was just a simple like he jumped right in the way of it. But that was the biggest issue of this episode. And I'm glad that it's confirmed it was just a translation error.
Yeah, like every reactor that I've seen, they've been going like, what are they talking about? She's wearing a button-up shirt.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like she's just wearing normal attire.
Yeah. I mean, like she's big, but like that's like not why they acted the way that they did.
Oh, for sure. I am glad that a lot of the episode had really good character acting, which for some reason I've been seeing a lot of people talk about on the timeline, character acting and like media. And I'm glad people are talking about it because it's a huge part of, anime and shows in general. And the way Ippon Jose was moving, Deku's like little hop to give her the umbrella to hold it above her head, All Might coming out of like the car. Like it was a great episode, especially the lighting and the tone and the atmosphere was perfect.
And I think that's a good thing. But I'm really okay. They did cut the support item scene, and I thought about it, and I was like, good.
Because we still get the whole point of it. Because the whole point of the manga is just to show he treats his quirks like tools.
Oh no, because get this.
People
I'm a big anti-Deku should have been a Batman fan.
Yep, okay, I get that.
The last thing I want is somebody taking that image and being like, remember what they took from you. Remember what they took from you.
I mean, to be fair, all the anime watchers on YouTube are calling him Batman Deku, so you're still getting that.
They stole this from you.
I remember when he was meant to be Quirkless.
Quirkless Deku, shut up. Nigga, do you see what he's fighting?
How is he going to take that muscular or Shigaraki? Like, are you joking? Are you like we're not making Deku just
what it comes down to is that people don't treat quirks like a power system. One. Two. A lot of people have not read Batman comics that are not crossovers.
Yep.
Which in turn means they haven't read a lot of comics where Batman doesn't overscale people he shouldn't overscale. Like people, like one of my favorite comic pages that gets posted every now and then from time to time is one where Batman pulls up on Wally back when like this is like in post-crisis timeline or something like that. It's like from the 80s, 90s. And he puts his hand on Wally's shoulder and he's all, you need to get your villains in line or I'll do it for you. Da-da-da-da. And while Batman is standing there with his hand, Wally all of a sudden is in his flash suit. And Wally's basically like, now understand that you only touched me because I literally let you touch me. You didn't even feel me leave to go home to put this costume on and come back. Do not get this shit twisted ever again in your life.
I mean, Batman in the comics says, like, most of the time he is inconsistent with his level of strength. Like, he's meant to be peak physicality of a human, but sometimes he does pull off stuff that shouldn't be possible. But most of the time he is grounded. And you treating Deku to be the Batman of the series is kind of expecting Knuckle Duster to be able to take down number 6. Were you expecting like Knuckle Duster to punch him and to kill him? No. This is my hero, where it's like not every person is treated equally. It's the
And-
it's first page of the entire manga. It tells you that.
And that's kind of another one of those things too, that like every time like Batman gets some super ridiculous thing in comics, people are like, great, we're going to be hearing about this for the next 5 years. People like, yeah, people who are like, yeah, see, Batman's invincible. And you have people that are like, fuck. If you did Quirkless Deku, you would get vigilantes, and Deku would not be able to go against any of these top tiers at all. Like Deku's journey wouldn't be to be the greatest hero; it would be to be a hero.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Koichi, who people are constantly comparing to Deku, and be like, "This is how Deku should be, being a vigilante and having no quirk." Look at Koichi; he is handling all this with a lame quirk that isn't really powerful. And then
EOS,
look what happened on
Koichi.
the last arc of Vigilantes. Koichi becomes a god.
Koichi EOS just laughing at people who
Yeah,
like,
legit.
the whole way through.
He was able. He doesn't even have a strength quirk. He was able to like stop a plane from falling with the propulsion of his quirk. And you want Deku to be like that and expect him to be grounded? No.
But
Lame,
also,
goofy.
the idea of Deku having to be the underdog part of Deku is him playing catch up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be an underdog. You don't have to be an underdog. Your story can be okay. Like, and I don't even know where people think everybody's this underdog, because like a lot of times people aren't even underdogs because of power or skill or anything like that. They are underdogs because of their circumstances or the environment. So like Asta is an underdog up until he gets like anti-magic, and then he might as well just be for all of his, like if you said there was negation magic in the verse and you gave that to Asta instead, then the center of his focus narratively, he would still be able to be discriminated against. He would still be able to be disliked. You would just focus negation spells into like swords or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be discriminated against because he's from Hajj village.
Hell, up to the Star Festival arc, Asta wasn't recognized and wasn't like given the appreciation he deserved until that moment when Julius announced and Asta to go on stage, and understood what he must do, and they show off how strong they are.
Yeah. Like, so it's like they're underdogs, but only in the sense that people don't give them full credit. But there comes a point in most underdog stories where they stop being an underdog. Like, you can't be an underdog the entirety of the story. Hajime no Ippo? You think Ippo's an underdog the whole 1,000 chapter?
No. I haven't even read it, and I know he pretty early on he stops.
You think like Asta doesn't stay an underdog.
Naruto.
He was an underdog due to the fact that the jutsu he was training on weren't quite, like, he hadn't gotten like the basics of chakra control yet. Which, if you think about it, why the fuck was the chakra control running up the trees lesson after learning jutsu?
That should have been very early on.
Like, why is that at the end? And Fuko from
which I'm 54 chapters into on that unlock, which is fire. Everyone should read it.
You could call her an underdog at the very beginning just because she doesn't understand the rules of her powers. She doesn't know exactly what's going on, so she can't weaponize her abilities at the time. But Fuko's also willing to up the blicky.
Oh, for sure.
By like 20, 30 chapters in, she pulls pistols on people. Like
the manga chapter.
She's like, give me the manga chapter. Don't play with me. I need that manga volume.
You want to read my manga?
Like, so Hey, Florian. No, like chakra natures and chakra, like basic chakra utilization so you can climb walls not being taught in Ninja Academy is foolishness. Outright foolishness. Like, you should want your soldiers to have as good of an understanding of their chakra as possible before your child soldier is potentially on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's too high level for them to learn how to do that, then why are they even going on a C rank mission? Why do they even have that option?
Everyone who just like, because I feel like everyone looks at Shonen and I think it's the underdog like genre of like manga, because it's not.
What's crazy about that is when you really think about it, most of the iconic series, they're not really these super underdogs. Like if you look at like the best example of an underdog that I can think of, and he's still not an underdog really through most of it, like, is Yuji. But that's immediately offset by the fact that just off raw physicality, he was as strong as a first grade sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
So even he's not really an underdog. And nope, Goku's not really an underdog at the start of DB because he starts copying people's moves after seeing them like one time. Like, if I remember correctly, Goku copied the Kamehameha wave after seeing it done
after seeing
once.
Roshi. Yeah.
So
hell, Krillin is more of an underdog than Goku.
I think that's a Hinata Shoyo, I would say, is more of an underdog because
I agree.
Height is important in volleyball. And even if you have hops to make up for that, what that also means is that you're in the air longer, which means you can't redirect.
Mm-hmm.
So there's trade-offs even to what he gets. But
actually, Hinata is a very good example of an underdog.
A lot of the action series, no, they're not underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at other Exorcist series. K and Y, nope. Like what makes them underdogs? Like nothing makes Tanjiro a unique underdog, because everyone is an underdog because the demons outscale almost everyone. So that doesn't work. Look at D. Gray Man. Alan Walker wasn't an underdog. The only thing that made him an underdog was the fact that his master had a horrible gambling problem and he ended up getting chased for the debts.
Mm-hmm.
Full Metal Alchemist. Yep, Ichigo isn't one. Luffy isn't one. Luffy isn't an underdog. He was just not a big fish yet.
We never really saw him being an underdog until we saw.
He didn't get his ass beat till he met Crocodile.
Yeah. And even then, when we got to see the backstory with him, Ace, and Sabo, where we saw Garth's training, I would even... Yeah, Luffy was never... Ichigo too, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Brandon De La Cruz is spot on. The League of Villains are the underdogs of the story.
Absolutely.
And that's partially because My Hero acknowledges that if you are what society likes, you are inherently not the underdog.
You're the top dog.
Like, you might not be the richest dude, but you're not an underdog. Which I wish more Americans realize that. But like if your parents make decent money and you're a high school kid, like there was a school in Indiana that went viral recently. One of the high schools, because of the way that high schools are funded and schools in general are funded in a lot of states, is it's based off of local property taxes. So if you live in a rich neighborhood, as much as people are like public schools are terrible, if you live in a rich city or a rich town and you live in a rich neighborhood and you go to that high school, the property taxes are going to make sure that that school is actually decently funded. So this school went viral because they have what looked to be like an Olympic length pool. They had like a full-blown auditorium. like 3 or 4 gyms, a field house, just it was a high school that was probably giving some of the smaller tier universities a run for its money based off the quality of success. Like their system, like them having like a borderline Olympic length pool has led to them winning like I think every state championship in Indiana for swimming for like the past 30 years. So like if you were going to that school, you're not an underdog. You got the deck is stacked for you. That school is built to make you succeed. And so that's like going to UA. If you go to UA, you're not an underdog. If you go to one of the best schools in the country, the province, yeah, Carmel High School. Kaiser knows what I'm talking about. You are not the underdog. So Deku cannot be an underdog and go to UA. And if he gets into UA quirkless, well, shit, clearly UA is not that good. Or the scale of hero society and people with quirks just isn't a big deal. Like, that's just it. Like, you don't get an overhaul in the world. And the only people who kind of keep up with villains that are while quirkless are people who had quirks and trained with them. Exactly, because if Deku was quirkless and got accepted in the UA, he would at least still be getting higher quality hand-to-hand combat training than like 80 to 90% of humans. And depending on the scale of the quirks of the people he's fighting, then that hand-to-hand, like, what is my quirk is sticky fingers and it makes it easier for me to steal stuff than to do against a dude with like 8 black belts. Like, bro, you just hold stuff better. Like, stop.
Hey, don't throw shade at David.
Like,
He's just
even
trying to show.
Mustard. Like, look at Mustard. He was upset because his quirk wasn't that great. His body wasn't immune to it. So he was running around with the gat. To offset the fact that he didn't have like a real powerful quirk. If you came at him with a gas mask and he doesn't have his gun on him, what is he going to do to you? The same shit that happened to him when Metal Tetsu ran through that shit. You're just going to beat his ass. Quirkless Deku versus and Bakugo versus All Might is Quirkless Deku just dying. Like, that's
No, that's him
Bakugo.
just cheering on Bakugo.
Like, that's terrible. So yeah, that's all to say that I'm glad that scene got cut, because I don't need the internet talking about Quirkless Deku for 3 months after the season ends, because they don't realize that removing Quirkless Deku means, or making Deku quirkless means none of the coolest fights we got. Like, think about your favorite Deku fights, Deku interactions, and then ask yourself, are they possible without One for All?
They're not.
No, because I mentioned my favorite fight is the gentle fight, and he was using Air Force a lot in that, which was him using, like, creating the air pressure with All for One, One for All.
Hell, Bakugo's development wouldn't be as great as it is now if One for All wasn't a factor in it.
Like,
Look at like Deku would not have been able to talk sense into Bakugo, or at least talk to him.
and if that happens, you know what happens during the first battle training? Deku just gets his ass beat, and that's it.
Sure, he may have like put up a good fight against Bakugo, but up until he clashes and he does the destroy smash up, Bakugo would have won.
Like, and Kao-chan versus Deku 2, done. That shit ain't fair.
Yeah, I think
Hell,
like one of the
Bakugo
weirdest
versus Deku Part 2 wouldn't have happened, because the reason why they had that talk was because Bakugo wanted to chat about One for All.
And Tyler said class 1 managing to use their quirks to save Deku is impossible without One For All. It's also not possible that Deku viably wanders the streets like that without One For All.
Mhm.
Like,
I think one of the weirdest arguments or complaints that I've heard is like Izuku didn't earn One For All when
No, bullshit.
I know, but every other character was literally born with their power.
People talking about Deku didn't earn One For All genuinely just gives off I don't read the series or pay attention.
like
It's as clear cut as possible. You just skipped episode 3 or any other episode. It's crazy.
bro, dude. But you know, that's okay. It's okay.
But to go back to the episode, like in the manga, like they didn't really focus on how Nagant reloaded, and the anime did. And seeing some of the reactions, I understand why Horikoshi skipped over that.
I thought they covered it. If I'm honest, I thought it was covered in the manga. I'm gonna have to double check now.
Wait,
Well, I
what
mean,
was covered?
It wasn't really emphasized the way the anime did. Like when it had that hole open up in her hand, she just put the bullet inside, and then
Oh, the bullet. Oh, that hole.
yeah,
That got Twitter in shambles.
yeah. So I understand why
Wait.
Horikoshi didn't really emphasize that as much as the anime did.
Let me see. Let me try to get up the
Let me
chapter.
see if
'Cause I
I
don't
can-
think I think it was just an anime added as like addition to her design.
I could have sworn I saw it happen, but now I gotta relook.
Because she reloads, but we don't see her put the bullet into her palm.
Yeah. Could have sworn.
Yeah, no,
Now I'm rereading the chapters just to see because
I'm on it too.
no, it wasn't emphasized the way that the anime did.
let's see.
Because it was after, it was like around here. Yeah, didn't happen in the manga, which is a really cool addition to her design and quirk.
I'm trying to figure out how we know because I thought we knew that. Let's see.
Tarnish posted a panel. It hasn't happened in the anime yet, but it just showed her like putting it like towards her hand, but it didn't really emphasize the hole or anything like that.
Yep, there it is. Chapter 314, page 3. At the top of the page, like the first 2 panels, you can see she's got her hand in rifle mode and she's like pulling the bullet to put it into it at the top. So she's like she's in the process of putting it in there in that page. So yeah, we did see her do it. It just,
It just we never saw it actually up close.
Yeah.
Which is still a really good addition.
One of the things that I wanted to see, that I want to see if they maintain or not, is how Deku primes Fajin the first time. Because it was one of those things that was real easy to miss. Because
Wait, what do you mean?
So when Deku charges up Fajin for the first time.
Yeah, he does like squats.
Yeah. And like when you're reading that chapter, but like the first time you're reading it through, you just see Deku, doing squats in the smoke. Like you don't have a reason to know he's charging Fajin doing this. Instead, what it looks like is like maybe he's like building himself up a little or like stretching his limbs out or something. And then it's like, oh no, once you get the mechanic, it's like, yeah, that was him charging Fajin. So I'm wondering if they're gonna make sure to actually include that in the anime, or is it gonna be like one of those, oops, we missed this detail, sorry. So yeah, I mean, we did get proof that she loads it through her hand. We just it wasn't emphasized that way, which were people freaking out about that? Because I have a lot of mute words, so I think I must have had whatever.
Wait, freaking out about like her putting the bullet into it?
Yeah.
No, they weren't freaking out about it. They were going, they were down bad about it.
They were thirsty.
If you could tell what, like, do you remember Daedra? You remember the whole song with Daedra?
I wish, was it some I wish I was the bullet?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Would you know what? I can see why.
Understand this. If you're the kind of fellow that tweets out, I wish I was the bullet, that might be part of why you're not getting to be the bullet in real life.
Yeah.
Take it from a married man. Okay. They see those tweets. They don't want those tweets. They want those messages in their messages, specifically after they've already made it clear that they like you. Time and place, my boys. Okay. Time and place.
And shout out to the custodians for correctly guessing the second user's quirk.
I
as a
never
joke.
watched that episode or that video, yes. But like all I know that they guessed the third quirk before it was shown.
You know, they were joking about like the second user's line about things accelerating, and they correctly predicted it, but they did it completely as a joke.
Oh, that's gonna be great when they're like, wait, no, seriously? And then it's gonna be like, yes.
I mean, to be fair, they've been doing that with the other quirks that they guessed correctly. Like I think it was smoke screen.
They guess like 30
sense.
quirks, so odds are they're gonna at least get a couple of them.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Like obviously putting up like gravity, sensory, all these like you're going to hit the mark with some quirks.
So do you think there's a chance that the custodians just watch and then they throw out a bunch of fake guesses so that they can like seem like they're right?
A lot of people think that's the case where they're I don't think that is. I think like the way they react, it comes across as like genuine. But I do think sometimes they hear stuff and they don't really factor it in. They don't really think about it, but it's like it lingers in the back of their minds or something like that.
Like because Rhett and Joe, the custodians, they read Vigilantes, and Rhett actually remembered Nagant showing up in one panel in chapter 111 when like All For One was showing 6. It was represented this little doe creature. It was like, okay, here are some heroes. Which one do you want to be?
Yeah, and Nagant's there. That's interesting. That's really good that they remember it, because it's kind of like for example, like this episode showed Twice's boss, and a lot of people didn't really pick up on that until much later.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, I still need to watch all the anime reaction. I wonder if anyone noticed that.
Alva, she was in one panel in a flashback.
All right.
Yeah, Nagant was in Vigilantes, Alvis.
Yeah, there's a lot of heroes that kind of either get like one-off panels or something like that. There's even a flashback with Mirko in Vigilantes.
Teaming up with Rappa,
Tiger Bunny.
Really fun.
That was a really good flashback because a lot of people give Vigilantes a lot of like hate, but like when they have arcs like the flashback arc with like with Overclock and all that, I love it. Like it's great content.
So yeah. They guessed manual as a joke in the war arc.
Yeah, they did.
All right, let's see. I think
I called on a live stream once, and he swore he doesn't read the manga regularly, just MVA and Vigilantes. Well, you might as well just take their word as law. I don't think they have any reason to lie, aside from them just looking like they're smart and they can figure stuff out, which is kind of lame.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that shouldn't be a good reason, but it is a reason that people have lied on the internet. So that's why I'm like, I don't know, but we'll see. But I'm sure I've said stuff in chapter reactions before that made it seem like I probably read ahead and I did.
Oh my god, Aniki read ahead, and this is all fake reactions.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if at least once or twice somebody felt that way seeing me read something.
Yeah.
AFO.
A lot of people are distrusting, so.
All right, so for what are you talking about? What AFO said when he was like, let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I just want to.
The truth of like when he was like flying away and he was talking about Tomura.
When he said, my original scheme was for him to become me in his entirety, melding minds with Tomura to create a new entity altogether was never in fact plan A. Too many Yeah. So granted, Tomoro's impulse for destruction eclipsed all my hopes and desires, all my hopes. But that is a minor detail now that this body's role is done. Injecting my quirk factor into Tomoro will broaden my authority and put a lid on him. This is phrased interestingly to the point that I might even like, if somebody has a scan site that phrased it slightly differently, I might even read that.
I'll check
too.
Here. Let me get the chapter.
I know TCB is a big scanner, so maybe I'll see what theirs
it's still
says.
there. Yeah, I'll send you the link to it.
I'll just find them on Twitter because I know they
perfect
keep it in their browser, or most people keep their stuff like they try to link you to their site. So let me see if I can find it real quick, just because I do want to see how it's phrased in this one.
I seem to recall being phrased similarly in the leaks, but I don't actively read the scans, but like if people post the panels, I see them there, but I don't remember seeing that one in particular.
Okay, so All For One says in TCB scans, for starters, I was supposed to have full control of Tomura's body right away. Things like fusion and a new personality weren't part of the original plan. So that's what TCB says. Tomura's desire for destruction proved stronger than I anticipated, but there's nothing to worry about. Now that I've finished up here, all I have to do is get him to absorb my quirk factor and Tomura will be sealed away once and for all. So slightly different verbiage, but so this verbiage is still more nebulous than that verbiage, which is probably, in my opinion, for the better, because again, there's certain things that All For One has said and done in the past that don't make sense if his plan is just to take over Shigaraki's body. Because when he says was for him to become me in his entirety, that verbiage makes it seem like it could be interpreted as was for him to become like me or akin to me, but it could also be for like I just wanted him to be me with my personality downloaded into him. But that creates a really, really weird, like I said, it creates a strange disconnect between like him choosing not to take like Genius quirk, him being like, yes, foster that hatred and become this new person, all these other things, because if the premise and the goal is for him to merge with Shigaraki, take control of his body and maintain that hatred, that's not possible without some root of that personality already being there. So there's something going on here that's a little weird that makes me wonder if this one is a bit more accurate, because usually the story ends up proving Caleb Cook right. I can't remember a time where we've read it and then it ended up being like, yes, Fanlation Site X was definitely the better translation on it. I don't remember a time. So I'm leaning towards this more interesting philosophy of maybe, but the fact that he's like, yeah, I can just conquer his personality. Because the thing is that the All For One consciousness sleeper car thing, especially with the fact that One For All consistently never the personalities within One For All never overwrote someone, would make it an interesting crapshoot to decide or think my personality is going to override this person's 100% guaranteed. So that'd be a strange approach that makes it seem like almost that like Shigaraki being that guy made sense. But at the same time, the fact that he's going to try to override him entirely suggests that he was like optimistic. So I think that part of the issue is also, and we need to be honest about this, All For One is not honest with himself, like intellectually. All For One consistently is like, everything is going according to my plan, blah, blah, blah. And time after time, it doesn't actually go according to his plan.
He doesn't know that Shigaraki destroyed the vestige, essentially.
Yeah, he doesn't like. So there's always these like layers to All For One being like, hey. And then you go back or the story progresses and it's like, that's not what's happening, All For One. What are you talking about? And that's kind of like what the conversation we had about, I think it was in the Discord, we were talking about how Deku going out on his own with some of his most agency. And somebody was like, well, Aniki, does he really have free will in that situation? Because that was kind of All For One's plan. And I was like, having a plan that is, I'm going to trust this person to act on their personality and try to find a way to take advantage of that is not actually a plan. That is you working with what that person is doing. So sending Nagan after Deku is a plan, but you hiding and hoping that like an assassin gets him isn't actually that much of a plan, because Deku went back and he's like, oh, try to make it inhospitable for him. You don't need all those. If you truly had planned well for that, you would have made it already impossible for Deku to return to UA. That would have been what made it actually him having a plan. Him just being like, Deku's going to try to find me. Well, no shit. You're a villain in hiding. He's also trying to find and capture the other criminals too. That's not special. That's not a real plan. That's like going outside and being like, you know, today the police are going to do their job. And then you just start shooting. Like, that's not a real plan. That's an inevitability. What did the Spanish translation say, Alves? Also, are you saying that, which one are you saying is flat out wrong? I'm gonna need both of those. And that's kind of another thing too, right? Is that, like Volk just said, AFO was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna face Deku in the ultimate showdown and all these other grandiose statements. And yet, what happened? Okay, you think Spanish is wrong. I still, if you don't mind translating what they said, I still would like to know what they said.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like All For One is just gonna get annoyed to the point that I think he's gonna start doing out some of the big stuff, assuming the big stuff that he hasn't been rewound already.
Yeah, and what Brandon De La Cruz, I thought Volt was a mod forever ago, but I guess that's not what happened. I don't know. Sometimes I assume people are mods and then I look and they aren't, and I'm just like, oh, I guess they're not mods. I don't know, did that expire? Is that a thing?
Speaking of the rewind, how long do you think All For One has left?
So this is, well, now you're just lying, Volk. But that's really hard to judge because we're dealing with anime minutes here, right? Like,
We all remember Namek.
so it's like, I hate time, like trying to speculate on time in manga because of situations like this. Because AFO got cooked crispy and rewound himself 6 years in like a matter of like 10-15 seconds. But he cannot be still rewinding at that same speed. And we know that because of the fact that he's like, we know he can't be doing that because he's still here. He's supposed to have only been alive for like 120 years, 140 years. So if that's the case, and he's rewinding himself at a clip of like 5 years per fucking 15 seconds or 30 seconds, then
Unless he's doing something similar to what Deku did during Overhaul, where he just was like destroying himself at a rate that it kept on rewinding, so it's taking longer or something.
yeah. So, but we could also say that by him getting like that extra boost, it's like maybe rewind worked faster or did more because of how much damage was involved. So it's like slowed down, but he can't stop it. Which that would kind of make sense. Like the rewind is proportional to what it needs to rewind. So if the energy needs to rewind wounds, it's gonna like go harder than if it's just slowly rewinding a body, which also begs the question, if he's going to download his quirk into All For One or Tomura anyway, does he automatically die there, or does he give him all the quirks except life force? Because the second he hands Tomura all those quirks, he can also hand him the rewind copy. And if he hands him the rewind copy, then he doesn't need to fade away. Which I'm of the belief that as long All For One's real personality has largely been suppressed to the quirk factor itself. So him surrendering those quirks to Tomura, it almost comes off as an acceptance that if Tomura grabs him to siphon the quirk, he's going to decay him too. And then let me real quick see what the translation Albus loaded said. It's saying, ironically, by trying to absorb my quirk factor, which had already fulfilled its purpose, it made my control deepen and can surface. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's very different. And yeah, for AFO, I can give him maybe 20 chapters, but it's going to come down to how much time we spend here too, which it looks like we're going to spend a good amount of time here with introducing the Shiketsu kids. We have the perfect stall tactic to keep this battle between Shigaraki, but ultimately I do see AFO making it to the battlefield. That's something that I have to make it a point to like clarify. AFO is getting to the battlefield with Shigaraki and Deku. Whether he's going to get stopped or not is a whole other thing. Because I also see All Might getting to the battlefield. I don't believe in All Might not going there. I don't believe in All Might living through the end of this series. I don't. I know that there's been videos about how All Might has completed his arc and he doesn't need to die because that throws it away. And to that I say, some of the same people who say that wanted Bakugo to die, so that doesn't get your ducks in order, buddy. Because if All Might is supposed to live, I'm sorry, but All Might needs to die before any other character. Like even Gran Torino, I have All Might on the like, you kind of need to kick the bucket list higher than it. Because we only like because Gran Torino is definitely like non-combative. He's not going to be hopping around doing anything more than likely. Who knows? Maybe Hori will put some egg on my face just to be funny. But look, all I'm gonna say about what Gege has done is part of me is hurt and part of me is excited, but I just know that I want things to be better for my boy because this is unnecessary.
I kind of thought that Gege had a smoother, more direct path to the end than Horikoshi does.
He
and
does.
and that's even before Horikoshi had to start taking breaks for his health.
Because ultimately, and I don't mean this as any shade towards Gege, and I know there's people who would probably be really mad, but JJK in its scope for like what this is not shade. Don't clip this and try to make it sound like shade. JJK is a simpler story. There's not like the social commentary built into the story of JJK the same way that it is for My Hero. Like there's stuff that is tied to social stuff, like the way that, like the Zennin clan being kind of like old school misogynist, patriarchal and stuff like that. But we bombed out the clans so that we don't have to deal with too much clan politics. We got rid of Jujutsu High now so that we don't have to deal with much of the school's politics. We've done a lot of stuff to minimize like the scope and range and make it just come down to like, we need to kill this dude and we need to do it fast. And that, again, that's not a knock. It's just
a fact of how the story was structured.
Yeah. It's like One Piece is One Piece is as big as it is partially because Oda wanted to write a story that basically involves circumnavigating the globe. In order for the story to feel that way, you have to go to a bunch of locations. And while some arcs you can argue are bigger, longer, smaller, shorter than they need to be, ultimately, the scope of the adventure that they're going on is massive. And One Piece is, for all intents and purposes, a modern day epic. Different character interactions matter in One Piece, for example, but ultimately you can kind of plop somebody into a One Piece arc from as long as you plop them at the start of one, and they're kind of going to be able to get what's going on. Like they might not know the power system rules and stuff like that, but they'll kind of learn as they go. And you can kind of do that. But there is this interconnected adventure that you're paid off better for knowing. So, and the only reason I say that is because I got somebody into One Piece, dropping them into the Zoe arc, and then that got them to go back and look at a bunch of other stuff.
I will say the first time I played Jump Force and played as Luffy and he had the gear 4 transformation, I was very confused because I thought all he did was stretch.
Yep.
So,
wait, why does he have this massive monster form? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, that threw me off. And I did start rereading One Piece again. Like I'm only like Sanji was just introduced, so that's how far back I am. Yeah, because the anime I can never get past Arlong, so I'm trying the manga. It's just going slow. So.
And to answer your question, Alves, yes, that is who that was.
Yeah, I remember you telling the story. You had someone do that, but then like they ended up only adapting half a chapter over the entire episode, and
not even half. It was like a third of the chapter.
Wait, what?
The first 3 episodes of the Zoe arc in One Piece only cover one chapter.
I never watched the anime for One Piece except for like 4Kids. I just read the manga, so I didn't even know that is atrocious. So
this is one of those things that was kind of funny. Is like there was this big old controversy. So there was 2 of them. One of them ended up still getting on board with One Piece. The other one is just like, nope. But
Yeah, for
the
me.
one that was just like, nope, does enjoy the One Piece movies when I take them to it. So
That's good to know.
So yeah, they did enjoy Film Red.
Film Z is the best One Piece movie still.
Stampede
I haven't
and
watched-
Film Red have law.
I haven't watched Film Red because I never got to watch it in Ireland. I only watched like the first 10 minutes because of a cam record. But it looked
Oh.
really good so far. That's why Film Z is still the best for me. Also, Stampede is way too convoluted.
Hey, I'm with it. Oh,
I mean, Smoker got a cool scene, so I'm happy.
One Piece Kai would be nice.
I'm actually really looking forward to the Netflix show just to see if
Oh, me
like,
for two as well.
if there's like a show that maybe can really capture me the way the anime unfortunately just hasn't. We'll see. I think it looks interesting if nothing else.
mhm. Yeah, it was. Stampede was very much like the Broly movie. I'm trying to remember if I saw the Broly movie in theaters or if I just watched it high in a basement. Either way.
I mean, both ways,
Are you
like
talking about
great
the-
experience.
Are you talking
Great
about the original
experience.
Broly movie?
No,
or
the-
No,
Super
the
one?
new one, the super
Super
one.
Broly.
Okay. No, yeah, I haven't seen any of those.
I
Like,
mean, when Goku, like when Gogeta breaks through and Broly into that like quantum realm part, like when you're high, you won't notice the flaws of that. So
Look, did it make sense? No. Did it go burr? Yes.
yes,
it reminds me of the first Dragon Ball Z movie, the Dead Zone. Like that, like I absolutely love that movie. It makes no goddamn sense. Like there are so many logical fallacies in that movie. Like Garlic Jr. tries to kill Piccolo, which kills Kami, which destroys the Dragon Balls, and then tries to use the Dragon Balls.
Lord. But yeah,
Nice Dragon Ball.
yeah, that's rough. That's rough. That. Why'd you have to tell me that? That's so terrible.
Wait, what is?
The Kami things? I'm just thinking
Oh,
about
yeah.
like, because that movie had to have been like ghost written because Toriyama like fumbles and forgets things, but he doesn't forget the rules of the Dragon Balls usually.
Yeah,
I mean, he
that was
forgot
a-
the Dragon Ball Super was called Dragon Ball Super, so he originally wanted it to be called Dragon Ball Super Hero, and then realized, oh wait, it's Dragon Ball Superhero, and he still went with it.
Yeah.
So it's like Toriyama, credit where credit is due. He still forgets a lot of stuff.
Dragon Ball is one I would really like to get a readaptation of. Try to like reorganize some of the things or like try to reinforce some of the things because a lot of it was made up on the fly, so a lot of things contradict each other. And maybe do something about Popo's design, just a little.
Yeah.
Get him in a home. Alves.
All right.
Crazy.
Wait, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, but one of the things I did want to say about One Piece is that there's been like this crazy ass debate that's like been popping up on TikTok for like the past 2 or 3 weeks now because somebody said, give me filler over bad pacing because I can just not watch filler. There's no way to get around bad pacing. And you have the people that are like, you guys are just manga readers who are spoiled and you're complaining about, you don't even notice it. And I was like, dude,
Wait,
if you're telling me you don't notice bad pacing once you're caught up, especially.
Wait, but wouldn't bad pacing also add, wouldn't fillers add to pacing? Because you're elongating an arc.
So the thing is that if a filler episode comes on TV, do you know what you get to do?
I guess watch or skip it. Just move about your day.
Exactly. If you have a bunch of stuff like broken up into a canon episode, but over half of it is just fluff, what do?
I guess so.
So
it's just more so you're like if if an episode is like, 60% filler and 40% canon material, and it's going on throughout an entire arc, to me, that's the same as if they were just plopping filler episodes in between canon episodes,
Right.
You're
And so
still waiting a long time to get to that like end of the arc, the same way you'd be waiting a long time with fillers to get to the end of
and that's
an
why
arc.
people said that they would rather have, because they're also talking about like, how does this impact the rewatch experience? Which is that on the rewatch experience, you get to just go, this 10 episodes here are fillers, so I get to just skip ahead. So when you go rewatch it, you trim the excess and you get to enjoy your experience how you want to.
You trim the fat.
Whereas if you have that like in canon filler stuff, you have to rewatch like every episode.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Yeah.
I get that. I feel like with a lot of anime, you don't need a filler guide to watch an anime. Like that should never be the case. And obviously, but sometimes it has to be because some series are either worked on continuously, like My Hero, and has to have a tiny bit of filler, or you just have a weekly shonen like One Piece or Boruto or
and
Black
that's
Clover.
the main reason why weekly anime almost don't happen anymore. Like if Boruto wasn't a continuation of Naruto, it would not have been a weekly anime.
Oh, for sure.
But Naruto was a weekly anime, so they felt compelled to keep it be a weekly anime.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really understand. Like seasonal anime seems to be working so much better. Like, just in terms of not being in step with the manga, which I mean that's primarily the reason why the Black Clover anime ended. It's just like the anime had a 2-month hiatus due to COVID, a 20 episode filler arc, and then they still caught up really quickly.
Yeah.
And my hero has like been seasonal from the get-go. They've always been about the anime's been about 1 to 2 years behind the manga, and so they've never like this is probably season 6 is probably the closest that they've gotten to getting caught up. But there's still a good chunk in separating them.
Yeah, like I think this is the first time we're in the same like 100-some chapter range in years, but that doesn't matter too much because, like for example, I think what was NBA like 2019?
Yeah.
So 2019, which I think it started in like what, April 2019, somewhere around there. So we were in our 200s, and I know that I was living in this particular apartment when season 4 of MHA was going, because I remember I would randomly wake up at like 5:30 in the morning sometimes, watch the anime episode, and go back to bed. But you would wake up, I'd wake up at like, I'd watch the episode, go, yeah. So that means it was late 2019 when season 4 was running. By the time season 4 finished, it still wasn't in the 200s. So yes, My Hero is currently in the anime at like chapter 311 through to 12. We are at 380. We have about 5 to 6 more episodes to go. Probably only going to get another 18, 20 chapters out. But in those 5 to 6 weeks that we have more episodes, in theory, we'll be around 386 when this, series ends, which means it's about a 60 chapter lead. So 60 chapters is already enough for a single season. If we're being honest, you can pull 60 chapters and make a single season with that. In fact, if they wanted to, they could make season 6, and this would be a crazy ass cliffhanger for season 6. But if they wanted to, just to make sure that season 7 had the right padding, and they didn't have to worry about like, oh, are we gonna do like a 13? Like, well, how are we gonna pace out this season? So they can make season 7 be from like 328 or 329 up until like 379. Because I want you to imagine the season finale, like episode 25 of season 6 or season 7, is Deku and Shigaraki facing off with the lightning bolt in the background, and then boom, season's over.
That'd be kind of fire as a cliffhanger. I would love that. Because there's no way you can fit this arc, Star Stripe, the Traitor, all in one. So you have to end it at like a suitable place to end it, and that works.
Mhm.
Oh, Kaiser with the super chat too.
Yep, let me hit up that Kaiser. All of the vestiges have big VAs, so some people speculate they'll be around for more than a few lines in the anime, i.e., vestige flashback movie. Thoughts? I mean, that's possible. I wouldn't be opposed to that. And actually, let me bring out the. Let's see. Let's go 379 just real quick, just because I want to.
Like the fact they got Daisuke Ono to be the second user is pretty much a big W for the anime.
Okay, so if we assume that they go with here, let me do this over. If we want season 7 to go until 379, just as an example, because Bones, I know you like to lurk, so please lurk for this part because we can help you out here. I'm about to help you do some crazy shit if you want to do it. 79 minus, let's go 329. Let's just say, boom. We adapt 50 chapters for season 6, okay? Okay, look at me, Bones. Look at me. Look at me. You seeing me? I'm seeing you. You seeing me? I'm seeing you. Cool. We're in. We're locked in, right? Eye contact. That's important. So you do 329 to 379. You do that. You add some extra padding, some moves, some cool background fights, maybe add in a couple flavor scenes here and there. Make sure the sequences are nice and juicy. Because the thing is this, and I'm on to you. Season 2 of My Hero Academia was only like 50 chapters. A lot of people don't do this, and a lot of people haven't sat there and counted the chapters, but season 2 was only like 50 chapters, my guy. And that is one of your most beloved seasons of all time. Season 3 was about 54 chapters. Season 4 is pretty low. Season 4, I think you moved into the about 60 chapter realm. I think that was when you did 66 chapters. We had some complaints here and there, but part of that was also people just not respecting Culture Festival. You started doing season 5, it was like 65 chapters. Looks like you're trying to do another like 65. Let's bring that back down. Let's get back down to that nice, smooth 50 some chapter range. Because the last thing I want you to do is really, really struggle to find a good endpoint for season 7, or make season 7 have to be like season 7 part 1, season 7 part 2. I don't want you to Attack on Titans, okay? We don't have to be that. We don't have to do that. We don't need that. So what you do is you wrap it up here, have the season finished, lightning bolt. Oh, the sky's not blue. Amazing. And then we're on break a year or 2. Oh snap. They don't see it. And then look at that. Like you look at MHA. Let's say we got 50 chapters left. Boom. Then you come back with season 8. Season 8 has 60 chapters. Oh, that's sexy. That's sexy. Now look at this. Look at us. Right here. We come in, we get these extra like 40, 50 chapters at Horries. We're gonna have to drop on us. Now season 8 isn't cramped. It also isn't way shorter than season 7 or any of the other seasons, or like it's not like the shortest season since season 1. You get a nice balanced presentation. You can go ham with the fight. You can add a little extra stuff to the Star Strike versus Shiggy. Oh snap. Little extra scenes. Add in some flashbacks. Give us a little extra action here and there. Like you can do a lot. And really sell some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Remember that, Bones. With your lurking ass. Yep. So yeah. Let me see what they said in the chat. Yep. Let's use the and NBA did start March 18th, 2019. So yeah, they were pretty far back. So we can get that lead back and it's gonna be okay. But yeah, that's how I look at that. That's probably what I would consider the best solution for what we have going on. Gentle going up to stop twice clones. I think that Gentle is the perfect character to get a twice clone to leave. You already know I'm a fan of there being a twice clone that actually lives through this. One of my favorite ideas about that is that the twice clone gets to start his new life. And it's because he's a clone of a criminal, but not the person who actually committed that arc or those crimes. He doesn't have to go to jail. He is not penalized. And we have him like maybe teach at UA or something like that. I think that would be a really nice way to kind of turn this story to a point, which is that like having reformed villains be teachers at UA campus. I think that could be the big like pièce de résistance, like learning from their past mistakes to help people stay on a better path, and then also creating pathways for them to have better options. Because like prison, you do have prison rehab groups or groups of people who in prison are in there for good behavior. Maybe they actually did some really messed up stuff. They're not going to get out anytime soon, but they kind of help people who have shorter sentences really like have a perspective what it's like to be locked up that long, why they don't want to be there, and hopefully get them out. Obviously, the prison system doesn't like when those programs work, but it is what it is. At least the prison system in the US. Let me clarify, because I know that some of you over in Europe have prisons that are centered on rehab and not punishment. So
wasn't there a whole like story? I think it's like Switzerland, that have prisons that are essentially built around reforming, like they're the prisoners. So they'll teach them like they can come and go or something, I believe. Let me look this up just so I'm not talking out of my arse. That's what Switzerland prison. Oh, Finland. That's what I was talking about. It was Finland.
Yep, just that's something that would be for the better. Yep. But yeah, I think we can start to wrap up here, unless you guys got anything else on your mind. Well, or we can cover that in final thoughts. Actually, let's see. Let's go with Joseph. Final thoughts.
Yeah, this was a good chapter. Mostly set up, but it was it's going in an interesting direction, especially with the return of Shiketsu that people have been clamoring for, and now that we got it, have it pretending that they never did. Again, this was the stupidest discourse I've ever seen, but whatever. I'm kind of used to it by now.
Was that final thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay, Thomas.
Very concise, Joseph. Very concise. That's me. Hi. This chapter, this chapter is great. I remember when the leaks came out, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, mostly because they're leaks. I didn't have much to go off of. That, and I just didn't want to comment on it because discourse was huge. And all for this chapter that is honestly very harmless. Like, there's nothing that this chapter did wrong that justified people saying take away Hori's pen, which is when they usually say that whenever Hori does something stupid, like the Bakugo stuff, which is completely valid. You can get mad at that, but all the stuff here, not really. Like, for example, I've seen people get pissed off about the Hawks situation and how, oh my god, he faked us out, but it wasn't really a fake out when you can just turn your page and see. It was more like what did I refer to it as? It was like a fake out. But aside from that, the chapter is great. I was kind of bummed out that all we got to see was, a head, like a helicopter shot of Deku versus Shigaraki. But from what we've seen, Shigaraki is free of Black Whip, and they're about to start their clash, which I don't think we'll see for another few chapters, maybe 5 at most, because we have to see what happened to Aizawa and President Mike, because they're somewhere. Either they are with Kurogiri right now, which seems to be the case. Kurogiri is nowhere to be seen. So it's definitely like they're all there going to have their chats. So that's something to look forward to. I'm just excited. Like everything that we see here, especially with the live stream of Deku versus Shigaraki throughout the world, that's going to lead into his I am here moment, which is fantastic. Kaminari, like I said earlier, I want him to do something because I don't want him to be someone to comment on stuff everywhere alongside Mandalay. I'm excited to see what Inasa can do because everyone has been talking about when Inasa would show up, the same with Shiketsu. And just to see them right now, awkward showing off with Kami riding on the meat finger, but you know what? We'll take what we can get. The episode itself, fantastic. There wasn't anything to nitpick there. Great usage of lighting, camera work, especially the CGI swinging of Deku through the city before we get to see his fight with the Gons. That was great. And the Gons OST, which I saw a lot of people in the chat talk up, fantastic. But I guess that's all I want to say. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day too. We have like in next week, new chapter, unless Hori wants to go on another break. So we're eating. Also make sure to like the stream if you have not. It helps out a lot towards the channel, and that's it. Also, wait. People we're talking about the episodes and how from now on there's going to be production quality issues. We haven't seen that yet. I think the leaker was being a bit too he was a bit overreacting. So I think we're fine with the rest of the season, but that's it.
But this fandom overreact? Never.
Oh, never, not at all. I've never seen this happen ever.
So I'm gonna thank everybody for coming through. So there's a chance you'll see me in a hospital next week, maybe not. We don't know.
Oh damn, I didn't realize the due date was this
so
soon.
Originally the due date was in March, but they're like, oh, she might come early, so she could be here next week. Technically the 25th is the new due date. We'll see. The new date. So we'll see. Miss Pregnant Wife over here is looking for something in the living room. But either way, I look forward to seeing you guys again. And I'm looking forward to next week's chapter, reading manga to my baby girl, making my wife stay in bed and rest for 6 weeks like she's supposed to. And so on. So I appreciate you guys for coming through. Make sure you guys all have a great day. Try to enjoy your weeks. And if you don't have a good week, we'll be here for you to try to give you at least an entertaining podcast.